Chapter 1187. The patriarch of the Huyan clan, Huyan Ba, had a long-term plan. The sorcerer race had already declined. However, eradicating the sorcerer race wasn't something that could be done in a short period of time. It must be known that the sorcerer race had been the #1 aristocratic family in the Yulon continent for thousands of years. Eradicating the sorcerer race was even more difficult than eradicating the Moron clan. The reason why Huyan Ba didn't dare to act rashly was very simple. The Moron clan had been exterminated. Huyan Ba felt that the sorcerer race hadn't done this. He also didn't believe that the sorcerer god of the sorcerer race had returned. Therefore, there was only one explanation for the Moron clan's extermination. There was an 80% chance that the sorcerer race had joined forces with a powerful clan to eradicate the Moron clan. In other words, the sorcerer race had an expert helping them from behind. Therefore, Huyan Ba planned to take his time and planned to slowly eliminate the sorcerer race. Yunjian and Ce didn't know what had happened in the Huyan clan. Even the people of the sorcerer race didn't know about it. Eradicating the Moron clan meant that the sorcerer race wouldn't be suppressed in the future. They could pick themselves up again. Yunjian and the others had been arranged to stay in the sorcerer race's most luxurious main hall. Yunjian and Ce were standing in a bamboo forest in the sorcerer race's main hall. Yunjian had taken the initiative to call Ce over. It was very quiet here. Even the people of the sorcerer race rarely came here. Yunjian raised her head and looked at Ce. She pursed her red lips. Then, she took out the butterfly knife made from the god-destroying blade and placed it in her hand. Yunjian slowly raised her head and looked at Ce. She wiped her red lips. Her beautiful face and clear eyes fascinated Ce. Yunjian paused for 2 seconds. Then, she asked Ce, "Is this yours?" Yunjian raised her hand and shook the butterfly knife in her hand. "You gave this to me, didn't you?" She did not ask the latter question in a questioning tone. Instead, she spoke to Ce with certainty. She looked at Ce, only to see Ce raise his eyebrows. Hearing Yunjian's question, Ce would never hide the truth from Yunjian. He replied decisively, "Yes." At the same time, he reached out and pulled Yunjian into his embrace. Mesmerized by the girl's fresh and clean scent, Ce could not help lowering his head and bending down to Yunjian's ear, where her collarbone was, to savor her wonderful scent as he explained, "There's no need for that. I did forge the god-vanquishing blade into a butterfly knife and asked Satana to pass it to you." In other words, Satana did not give his family heirloom to Yunjian. Compared to Satana's family heirloom, the god-vanquishing blade in Yunjian's hand was the true treasure. Compared to Satana's family heirloom, the blade of the butterfly knife in Yunjian's hand was the true divine weapon. It was one of a kind in the world. It could be said that the two could not be compared at all. Ce had merely borrowed Satana's hand to pass the god-vanquishing blade that he had personally ordered his men to modify into a butterfly knife to Yunjian. Yunjian did not ask where Ce got the knife. She was suddenly touched that he had given her such a precious item without a word. Yunjian's heart warmed. Just as she was about to say something in gratitude, Ce's shameless words were heard. "Xiao Jian, don't move. Let me touch you." Just as Yunjian reacted, she felt a large palm reaching under her shirt. It went around her bra to latch onto a soft part of her and pinched gently. Chapter 1188. Shameless. Yunjian wanted to scream right then and there. It had never crossed her mind that Ce, who looked dignified and handsome on the surface, who was completely uninterested in women, was hiding such a. Just as she thought about it, Yunjian felt a large palm clasping a certain P in front of her chest. The feeling was truly, let go. Yun Jian did not hold Siyi's hand, but she pushed Siyi away with her flushed cheeks. As she spoke, she could not help blushing. How could Siyi do as she wished? Finally, he had a lovely wife and he was a normal man now. If it were not for the fact that his Xiao Jian was still young, he would have tortured her to the point where she could not get out of bed for days. Be good, let me touch you. Siyi pressed his lips to Yun Jian's ear and blew softly. If there was someone standing behind Siyi right now, they would only see Siyi bending down slightly. His actions and demeanor all revealed his handsomeness. No one would have thought that the prim and proper Siyi was doing something so embarrassing to Yun Jian. Don't. We're outside. Someone will come. Siyi's action made Yun Jian blush. She was certain that she had never done something so thrilling in her life. They were in the wild too. Although this was the territory of the witch tribe, the bamboo forest was near the mountain. They were in the wild with no one around, yet he was doing this to her. If someone were to see this, just as she thought about it, a voice rang out, "There's no one here. Come here and tell me." When Yun Jian heard the voice, so did Siyi who stood behind her. There was a glint in Siyi's eyes. With a smirk, he wrapped his other arm around Yun Jian's slender waist while his other hand was wrapped around the girl's bountiful bosom that had never been claimed by anyone, unwilling to withdraw. In the next second, when the person who spoke was about to lead another person over, Siyi hugged Yun Jian and darted into a bush that was as tall as a person not far away. Seeing that someone was really coming over and Siyi was rubbing a certain part of hers gently, Yun Jian felt her face burning. As she thought about it, she peeked out from the bush and saw Lan Su and Wu Lan coming over. It was obvious that Wu Lan was the one who spoke just now. Wu Lan was the leader of the sorcerer tribe and had led the sorcerer tribe for thousands of years. Hence, she had a lot of authority in the sorcerer tribe. Lan Su followed them. She and Wu Lan did not notice Yun Jian and Siyi who were hiding in the bush. At this moment, Wu Lan walked over and turned to look at Lan Su. Suddenly, Wu Lan's gaze sharpened. At the same time, Wu Lan walked forward and grabbed Lan Su's hand, exposing Lan Su's wrist. However, Lan Su's wrist was white and tender. There was nothing on it. "Where's your chastity sand?" Wu Lan suddenly raised her voice. She sounded a little angry. Lan Su did not answer. She turned her head and looked to the side. After a long pause, Lan Su laughed mockingly and said, "What's the difference between having the chastity sand and not having it?" Wu Lan suddenly clenched her fists and frowned at Lan Su. "Have you forgotten the rules of the sorcerer tribe? Who is that man? Find him and kill him." "I did it willingly," Lan Su suddenly said. "Are you crazy?" Wu Lan roared at Lan Su. "I'm not crazy. Please don't come looking for me again. This is my business and it has nothing to do with a stranger like you." Lan Su glanced at Wu Lan and prepared to leave. Chapter 1189. Wu Lan's last sentence made Yun Jian's eyelids twitch. She did not expect Wu Lan to be Lan Su's biological mother. Yun Jian did not have the sorcerer god's memories, so she did not know if the sorcerer god knew about this. But after hearing Wu Lan's words, Yun Jian was still shocked. At this moment, she had forgotten that a certain pig trotter was still doing evil to her. In the distance, Lan Su's wrist was grabbed by Wu Lan. When she heard Wu Lan's last sentence, Lan Su's entire body clearly froze. Then, Lan Su mercilessly slapped away Wu Lan's hand that was grabbing her wrist. She said to Wu Lan, "Who I want to be with is my business. From the moment you abandoned me and refused to acknowledge me, we no longer have anything to do with each other." With that, Lan Su walked away without looking back. Wu Lan, who was standing in the distance, froze. A pained expression covered her face. Just as Lan Su was about to leave, Wu Lan shouted in the direction where Lan Su was about to disappear, "It's fine if you don't acknowledge me. I'm the one who has wronged you. But you can't let our people know that you've lost your virginity." As a mother, this was her advice to Lan Su. Wu Lan knew that she was being selfish. She was the leader of the sorcerer tribe. She should have said this immediately. Because this was the rule of the sorcerer tribe. But she could not let her daughter be in a dilemma. Wu Lan stood there and pondered for more than 10 minutes. In these 10 minutes, Yun Jian did not dare to make a sound. This allowed Ce to take advantage of her. After Wu Lan left, Ce brought Yun Jian out of the bushes. In spite of it, Yun Jian's top was disheveled. If anyone saw this, they would think that she and Ce had done something. By the time Yun Jian and Ce returned to the sorcerer tribe's main hall, the banquet had already begun. The people of Yulong continent still needed to eat and drink, just like the people on Earth. Apart from having a constitution that allowed one to cultivate, as well as being able to easily live for over 1,000 years as long as one cultivated. His other physiques were exactly the same as those of the people on Earth. After dinner, Yun Jian asked Wu Lan some questions. She came here to find the whereabouts of the mysterious man. Moreover, Yun Jian did not intend to stay for long this time. Hearing that Yun Jian would soon return to Earth, Wu Lan and the people of the sorcerer tribe were disappointed. Wu Lan even asked symbolically, "Sorcerer God, will you return to the sorcerer tribe?" Wu Lan asked. Looking at Lan Su's pleading face, Yun Jian couldn't help but nod. "I'll come again." She came here just to inquire about the whereabouts of the mysterious man. She would leave after staying for a few days. While talking, Wu Lan promised Yun Jian to keep an eye on the whereabouts of the mysterious man. The dinner was soon over. When it was time for bed, Yun Jian slept in her own room. Ce slept in the main room as well, which was right beside Yun Jian's room. Just as Yun Jian pulled the blanket over herself and lay down, however, she felt herself being hugged by a firm chest. The familiar scent meant that the person who hugged her must be Ce. "What are you doing here?" Yun Jian blushed once she recalled what happened in the bamboo forest today and pushed Ce away. "Xiao Jian, it's our wedding night today. Where else can I go if I'm not here?" Ce lifted Yun Jian's hand shamelessly and looked at the matching ring on her finger as he said matter-of-factly. Yun Jian's cheeks flushed at his words. In the next second, Ce pounced on Yun Jian, pressing himself on top of Yun Jian. A certain part of him was swollen and hot, pressing against her softness through their clothes. "Xiao Jian, let's consummate our marriage." Ce's breathing quickened as he pressed himself on Yun Jian, his deep and magnetic voice ringing softly. Ce's current image was completely different from his usual aloof attitude toward others. Chapter 1190. While Yun Jian was drowning in shame, Ce's hand slid down her body to cup the girl's ample bosom again. Since Ce had signed a marriage contract with her, tonight was indeed their wedding night. In the dark, Yun Jian extended her hands and placed them on Ce's firm chest. Just as she placed her hands on Ce's chest, a sharp glint flashed in Ce's dark eyes. His Xiao Jian knew how to take the initiative now. Just as Ce thought about it, Yun Jian pressed her lips together. Her action was different from before. Even in the dark, Ce could clearly see Yun Jian's pursed lips. Her bashful action was like a young woman who had just gotten married. Ce was mesmerized. Be it in the past or now, the only person who could mesmerize him was his Xiao Jian. Ce was currently on top of Yun Jian, a certain swollen part of his body pressing against her soft hole. Despite being separated by 2 layers of clothes, it was unbearably hot. In the dark, Yun Jian's cheeks flushed even more. She turned her face to the side as she squirmed under Ce, bashfully like a young girl who had no experience in sex. Both of them were pressed together at a certain spot. Feeling it, Ce was close to spitting fire. Xiao Jian, don't move. Ce was at the limit of his tolerance. He was a normal man. Facing the woman he loved, especially when they were pressed so close together, Yun Jian was still squirming. It was as if she was telling him to F*ck her, F*ck her. Yun Jian was about to speak but Ce covered her lips with his. She did not close her eyes but she could clearly see Ce's sharp eyes with long and narrow lashes. Ce kissed her for a while. Yun Jian's eyes were wide open throughout, blinking up and down. It was only when she was almost out of breath from the kiss that Ce let go of her lips. Yun Jian panted softly. At the same time, she could feel the chilliness on her upper body. She did not know when Ce had taken off her top, even her bra. His palms were large but Yun Jian was well developed. His palm could not even cover one of her twin peaks. Yun Jian's cheeks felt like boiling water as she blushed in embarrassment. Ce went to Yun Jian's ear and coaxed her softly, Xiao Jian, call me by my name. She had never called him by his name before. He looked at Yun Jian expectantly while his hands never stopped moving. Yun Jian felt her breast swell. She pushed Ce but he could not get up. It was true that he was stronger than her. Yun Jian's cheeks were still flushed. When Ce went close to her side, she suddenly called out softly, hubby. Ce, who only wanted to hear Yun Jian call him by his name, was stupefied on the spot by the soft voice. What did she call him? While Ce was stunned, Yun Jian suddenly gave him a hard shove. Her push pushed Ce down and she flipped over to straddle him, turning the position of being on top of a man from a woman's bottom to being on top of a woman from a man's bottom. Her lower body was still wearing pants, but her upper body was already naked. In spite of it, Ce was dressed neatly as if he was a gentleman who came to watch a show. Yun Jian bent down and pressed her chest against Ce's chest. She removed Ce's top quickly and said with a smile, fair enough. I'm the one on top. Chapter 1191. It turned out that she had called him hubby just now to distract him so that she could turn the tables and take control of the situation. When Ce learned of Yun Jian's intention just now, he was not angry. Instead, he looked at Yun Jian with a smile. Say it again, he told Yun Jian gently, not planning to press Yun Jian beneath him again. His Xiao Jian was the only one in this world who could distract him. Only his Xiao Jian was the only person in the world who could do whatever she wanted to him. Ce thought that even if his Xiao Jian held a knife to his neck or killed him, he would dote on her without hesitation. Even if she were to wreak havoc in an Hun group, not only would he not stop her, he would even help her. Ce had never thought that he would one day become like this for a woman. What are you shouting for? Yun Jian was suddenly playful. She sat on Ce's upper body, their private parts pressed together with only two thin pieces of pants between them. Yun Jian, who was sitting on Ce, purposely bent down to press her chest against his as she spoke, her waist moving her lower body and twisting it twice. Ce was almost burning with lust. He grabbed Yun Jian's soft hand and pressed Yun Jian beneath him once more. Ce's breathing was ragged as he panted with a smirk. All that was left in his eyes in the dark was his Xiao Jian. At the same time, Ce bent down and stuck his face close to Yun Jian. His lips moved again as he uttered softly, Xiao Jian, you're the one who started the fire. You'll extinguish it yourself this time. As Ce spoke, he held both of Yun Jian's hands and raised them above her head with one hand while his other tugged at Yun Jian's pants. Don't. Yun Jian cried softly. Her cry, however, made Ce even more eager. When Yun Jian called him hubby, her soft voice made Siyi's lower body swell. He wanted to take off Yunjian's clothes and shove his desire into a sweet cave. With that thought, Siyi did the same. He could not take it anymore. He could not take it anymore. His Xiao Jian, the Xiao Jian he loved so much. Now that his beloved Xiao Jian was lying half-naked in front of him, he would not be a man if he could still hold himself back. At this moment, the words he had said to wait for her to come of age had long been thrown out of his mind. He wanted her. He wanted her. He wanted to combine his desire with her private parts. To make her truly and completely his woman. Yunjian's "don't" just now fueled Siyi's ambition. His eyes were red as he reached out to rip off the pants that covered Yunjian's beautiful legs. Other than the panties she was not wearing a single piece of clothing. Yunjian was shaking when her last piece of underwear was ripped off. She pushed Ce but did not reject him. If she was still a little resistant when Ce touched her before, even if she was secretly looking forward to it, she had completely accepted it now. She loved him. It was a love that did not need words. It did not need to be mentioned all the time. When Yunjian lay naked beneath him, Ce finally could not hold it in anymore. Just as he unbuckled his belt and took off his pants, Yunjian's voice rang out. Chapter 1192. Ce was even more aroused by Yunjian's initiative. He kicked the offending clothes to the floor and pounced on Yunjian. He nibbled from her lips to her earlobes and then to her collarbones before moving lower and lower until he reached the pair of plump softness. Looking at the softness, Ce could not hold himself back as he bent down and kissed her. Yunjian shuddered at the man's sudden intimacy with the maiden's untouched territory. In spite of it, she hugged Ce back tacitly, unwilling to let go of him. Xiao Jian. The last words were buried between his teeth as Ce lowered his head and kissed the pea between her breasts effortlessly. His desire was once again delayed until it was pulled to the highest point. It was also at that moment that Yunjian let out a moan that she did not even know what it was. In the end, Ce held his lust against Yunjian and was about to break through everything. He paused and bent down to kiss Yunjian for a while before asking, "Xiao Jian, I'm going in." Yunjian dared not look at Ce but she nodded. Needless to say, her rosy cheeks were flushed. Just as Ce was about to enter, however, a shout came from outside the door. It was very untimely. "Young madam. Something happened to Lan Su. Young master isn't in the room, so I'm here to look for you." He didn't need to listen to this familiar voice to know that the owner of this voice was Immerse Senator Ce, who was going to break through the last hurdle and make the person he loved completely his, heard the voice that came at an untimely moment. He almost punched the bed sheets, resisting the urge to strangle Immerse Senator Ce's muffled voice rang out, "Go outside and wait." Immerse did not enter the room. He stood outside the door and shouted into Yunjian's room. He dared not enter the young madam's room casually. If he did, it would be strange if his young master did not kill him. However, when he heard his young master's voice coming from inside the room, Immerse was completely stunned. He stood there stupidly, and the anxiety in his heart was instantly forgotten. For a moment, he really couldn't react. "Get the hell away from me." This was one of the few times Ce lost his temper. Seeing that Immerse was still outside the door, Ce growled again. At the same time, he was holding Yunjian's soft body, feeling impulsive. Just a little bit more and Xiao Jian was going to be his woman. But in the end, he was interrupted by Immerse, that stupid donkey. It was the first time Ce felt so impulsive. At the same time, his desire was swelling. It was also the first time Ce found Immerse an eyesore. Before Mo Sen, who was standing at the door and realized that he seemed to have realized something terrible was going on, he stumbled when he heard Siyi's growls. Eventually, he steadied himself and turned to walk away. Yun Jian, who was pinned down by Siyi, knew that it was not going to happen today. Seeing Siyi's impulsive look, Yun Jian hugged Siyi back out of worry for Lan Su. At that moment, Siyi looked like a kid who was caught stealing candy and had his candy confiscated. Chapter 1193. As Yun Jian spoke, she glanced at Siyi, who had a dark expression on his face. She had never seen Siyi with such a dark expression before. Looking at his dark face and his uncontrollable expression, Yun Jian snickered. Then, she gently pushed Siyi away and quickly put on her clothes. After she was properly dressed, Yun Jian paused for a moment. Then, she walked over to Siyi and gently gave him a kiss. It was only then that Siyi's handsome features relaxed slightly. He kissed the girl's sweet lips for a while before releasing the frown that was initially furrowed. "I'll go too." Seeing that Yun Jian had quickly put on her clothes, Siyi also quickly put on his clothes. Out of the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of the red hickeys around Yun Jian's collarbone. Those were obviously marks left by himself. Siyi's face that was dark earlier was now relaxed. Suddenly, Siyi felt a sense of joy. Although he hadn't completely taken over her body, he had touched her from head to toe. Not only had he touched her, he had even kissed her. Where could she escape to in this lifetime? His woman, one day, would completely become his. Even if he had to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a sea of fire, he would accompany her. He would pamper his woman. Whoever liked to watch could go and be envious. Seeing that Yun Jian didn't realize that there were red hickeys planted on her body, Siyi's eyes lit up. It was bright red, especially under the light. As long as one glanced at it, it could be seen clearly. Siyi's lips curved into a handsome smile. He didn't remind her and was already dressed properly. However, Yun Jian ran out and Siyi followed her. After all, Lan Su had been with Yun Jian for such a long time. She had developed feelings for Yun Jian. Furthermore, in Yun Jian's heart, she had already treated Lan Su as one of her own. If that wasn't the case, Yun Jian wouldn't have been the first to rush forward when she saw the Murong family bullying the witch tribe. It was precisely because the Murong family had attacked Lan Su and Adam on Earth. Adam had been seriously injured when he was ambushed in order to protect Lan Su. It was also because of this that Yun Jian had a bad premonition when she recalled the conversation between Lan Su and Wu Lan in the bamboo forest. Hence, she walked even faster. At this moment, in the witch tribe's main hall, Lan Su was standing in front of Wu Lan and the other witch tribe elders beside her. Wu Lan's expression was terrible. As for the other elders of the sorcerer tribe, their attitudes were unyielding. In front of the witch tribe's main hall, Adam had just run over from his bedroom when he heard the commotion. However, he was stopped outside the main hall by the witch tribe. The sky was dark and silent. When Adam was stopped, Yun Jian had already walked over with Siyi. Seeing Yun Jian, the witch tribe maid who stopped Adam immediately let them in. "Sir God and Lord Witch God, please enter." Yun Jian understood. Just as she walked in with Siyi, she saw Adam and Mo Sen, who had rushed over, being stopped by the witch tribe maid again. "Let them in," Yun Jian ordered. The witch tribe maid didn't dare to disobey and immediately let them in. When Yun Jian and the rest walked into the main hall, they saw Lan Su standing in front of a group of people. Among them, an extremely ugly-looking elder was pointing at Lan Su and scolding her, "Losing your chastity before marriage. To think that you are the sorcerer god's protector. Losing your chastity mark before marriage is such an insult to public morals. Who allowed you to do this?" The female elder's words were very unpleasant. Just as the female elder spoke, however, Yunjian's voice that was sharper and more forceful was heard. Chapter 1194. These elders of the sorcerer tribe were very pedantic in their thinking. To put it bluntly, they were comparable to the old antiques of country Z on Earth. From some perspectives, the elders of the sorcerer tribe were even more exaggerated than the older generation of country Z. Although the sorcerer goddess was older than the tribe leader and was the most powerful existence in the sorcerer tribe, there were always some people who felt that they could lecture her from the perspective of an elder. Even because Yunjian looked younger, these elders of the sorcerer tribe were like Yunjian's teachers and wanted to lecture Yunjian in every possible way. Some of them even thought, if I say these words now, these young people will definitely know and understand me in the future. Then, they will repay me with a grateful attitude. Just like this elder of the sorcerer tribe just now. The elder who said that Lan Su was indecent did not have a surname. The people of the sorcerer tribe all called her Elder Kong. Her name was Kong. Elder Kong felt that she was teaching Lan Su in such a tone because she was doing it for Lan Su's good. However, Lan Su had forgotten one thing. Lan Su had treated her own beliefs as the absolute right, but she had once denied Lan Su's own beliefs. Elder Kong even thought that she did not need to use the tone of an elder to lecture Lan Su. She stood up and said that it was for Lan Su's good. Elder Kong said that so that Lan Su would understand her good in the future when she found out that everything she said was correct. However, Elder Kong did not know that Yunjian hated people like her the most. Elder Kong stood up and said that Lan Su was not right. In fact, her main purpose was to curry favor in front of the sorcerer goddess. However, she expressed it in a way that she thought Yunjian would feel good about. Elder Kong did not know that Yunjian hated her behavior very much. Hence, after hearing what Yunjian had said, Elder Kong turned around and lectured Yunjian, Sorcerer Goddess, although you are the savior of our sorcerer tribe and the future of our sorcerer tribe, you are still a sorcerer tribe. But what I said was all for the sake of Lan Su. The women of the shaman tribe should abide by their duties. If the young women of the shaman tribe who lost their chastity before marriage were raped by the people of the Murong family, it would be irreversible. But Lan Su has broken the rules of our shaman tribe. So, according to our rules, she should shut up. Old thing, if you keep talking, I'll turn you into a dead man in the next second. Yunjian suddenly scolded. At the same time, she took out the god-vanquishing blade butterfly knife and placed it in front of Elder Kong. Ha, don't think that I won't kill you just because you're an elder of the shaman tribe. Don't forget, I don't even remember what the shaman tribe is. Let's not talk about you. If anyone from the shaman tribe dares to disobey me, I'll kill them all right now. Yunjian was arrogant, extremely arrogant. Her words could not hide her arrogant tone. She held the knife and pointed it at Elder Kong. That was right. No one could disobey her. No one had the right to criticize her. No one had the right to criticize her in front of her. This was the dignity of the sorcerer goddess. Perhaps it was because he had lived a carefree life for thousands of years that Elder Kong had long forgotten the arrogance of the sorcerer goddess. It was because she was strong. That was why she was arrogant. Her words were like the sky in the entire shaman tribe, in the entire Yulong mainland. That was an imperial edict. Everyone present was suddenly shocked by Yunjian's actions. Especially Elder Kong. If the sorcerer goddess from thousands of years ago was standing in front of him, Elder Kong would not dare to lecture her. However, the current Yunjian made Elder Kong think that she was someone he could control. However, Elder Kong was wrong. When Yunjian pointed the god-vanquishing blade at Elder Kong was so frightened that he almost knelt down. Chapter 1195. Everyone in the Yulong mainland knew that the Divine Lord had 4 protectors under him. There was no need to mention the Divine Lord's own strength. Any one of the 4 protectors under him was enough to suppress everyone present. The people of the Yulong continent had heard that the Divine Lord was a supreme existence in the deity's continent. Apart from that, the Divine Lord also had 4 guardians. The strength of these 4 guardians was second only to the Divine Lord. Not to mention the Yulong continent, even in the deity's continent, there were existences that could destroy heaven and earth. Hence, it was not difficult to see that when Elder Kong saw Adam reveal his true appearance, she, who had originally wanted to mock Lan Su for finding a nameless junior, immediately stopped talking. She had originally thought that Lan Su had given her virginity to a man who had appeared out of nowhere. Who would have known that this man was the Divine Lord's guardian? It was said that in the God's continent, other than the Divine Lord, the Divine Lord's 4 great protectors were the rulers of the God's continent. As long as the Divine Lord didn't take action, the Divine Lord's 4 great protectors could make any decision on behalf of the Divine Lord. Moreover, each of them had the ability to destroy heaven and earth. One of the 4 guardians from the deity's continent, the rumored hot-tempered Adam, was actually the man who had taken Lan Su's virginity. In this case, there was no need to talk about the rules of the sorcerer tribe. The people of the sorcerer tribe worshipped Adam like how they worshipped the Divine Lord. How could they dare to take action against Lan Su? TSK, what a joke. Elder Kong's entire body trembled. She was thinking that it was a good thing that she did not say anything that would consign her to eternal damnation. However, it was also at this moment that Elder Kong suddenly felt her throat tighten. In the next second, Elder Kong's throat was tightly gripped by an invisible hand. Everyone present was shocked and Elder Kong was lifted up into the air. However, when they saw CE, who was not far away, use his mental strength to lift Elder Kong up, everyone present was terrified. CE's face was terrifyingly dark. After using his mental strength to lift Elder Kong up, he threw her out fiercely. Elder Kong was already an old woman, so after being flung by CE, she was thrown onto a bench not far away from the main hole. The stool shattered in an instant and Elder Kong fell to the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Seeing CE's sudden action, the surrounding people instantly turned pale with fright, but at this moment, no one dared to stand out and say anything bad about CE. At this moment, CE's mellow voice, which carried a trace of murderous intent, rang out, "If you dare to stir up trouble at night in the future, there's no need for your sorcerer tribe to exist in this world." After saying this, CE grabbed Yunjian's hand and walked out. With his words, the people of the Wu tribe were a little suspicious. Why was the Divine Lord so angry? However, no one could have imagined that because of what happened tonight, someone's plan to win the beauty's heart had been completely disrupted. However, the people present would definitely not dare to do anything else. Besides, Adam and Mawson were here. Who else could question the sorcerer god's words? Even for Elder Kong, it was already a miracle that CE was merciful enough to keep her alive. Wu Lan finally breathed a sigh of relief for Lan Su. She was not a good mother, she did not even dare to stand out and admit that Lan Su was her daughter. Being pulled away by CE, Yunjian paused just as they were about to leave the main hall of the Wu tribe. She then turned around and told the people in the hall, "I'll be returning to Longmen City tomorrow." She was telling them, not asking for their permission. Chapter 1196. Yunjian's decision to return to Longmen City was not made on the spur of the moment. From the moment Yunjian stepped into Yulong mainland, her objective was simple. She wanted to know who the mysterious person who was controlling Inferno Ring behind the scenes was. The culprit behind her brother's tragic death in her past life had yet to be eradicated. Of course, this was only one of the reasons. From her brother's death in her past life to her constant assassination attempts recently, all signs pointed to the fact that this was not as simple as it seemed. Hence, Yunjian decided to make a trip to Yulong mainland. In spite of it, Yunjian was well aware that there were not so many coincidences in this world. It was impossible for her to find the mysterious person on her trip to Yulong mainland this time. Before she left, Yunjian had privately asked Wulan to track down the mysterious person for her. At the same time, she asked Wulan to find someone for her. The person was her mentor in her past life, an old man whose name she did not know. It was this old man who taught her hypnotism and other techniques in her past life, allowing her to survive in the world of cannibalism. A long time ago, Yunjian heard that the old man was from Yulong mainland. Now that she had come to Yulong mainland, she wanted to see her mentor again if there was hope in the future. Lan Su paused and kept quiet for 2 seconds. I think. Lan Su bit her lip. Just as she was about to state her decision, Adam, who stood beside her, grabbed Lan Su's hand. Adam then spoke to Yunjian on behalf of Lan Su. Young mistress, look at how homesick she is. She definitely won't be returning to Longmen City anytime soon. As he spoke, Adam's feigned cool face was magnified. He laughed and said smoothly, young mistress has agreed to let me stay in Longmen City for a while. Young master has already agreed for me to stay in Yulong mainland for a while. I will take good care of her. When the situation of the sorcerer tribe improves, I will not allow her to stay in Yulong mainland even if she wants to. As he spoke, Adam reached out and pinched Lan Su's tender face before bursting into laughter. After hearing Adam's light-hearted words, Lan Su was very moved and looked up at Adam. Unknowingly, Lan Su's hand had already been held by Adam. She didn't realize it, but she was very touched that Adam had actually spoken the words in her heart. After pausing for 2 seconds, Lan Su heaved a sigh of relief and said to Yunjian, Yunjian, I want to stay in the Yulong mainland. At least, I can't leave for now. The Murong clan has been destroyed. Now is the best time for the sorcerer tribe to rise. I'll wait for you in Longmen City. Yunjian nodded with a smile. She was never one to stop others from having their way of thinking. Towards her own people, like Qin Yiru and Yunyi, Yunjian had never supported them no matter what they wanted to do. Hearing Yunjian's words, Lan Su was touched. At the same time, she held Adam's hand and promised Yunjian. Yunjian, don't worry. I only need a semester, no, a summer break to make the sorcerer tribe rise. I'll definitely go to Longmen City to look for you when the time comes. I'll wait for you. Yunjian narrowed her eyes with an unfathomable gleam in them. This was a belief and also a promise between her and Lan Su. That night, Ce fell asleep with Yunjian in his arms, but he did nothing. Early the next morning, Yunjian, Ce, and Mo Sin returned home. Knowing that Ce was still functioning, there was no need for Lan Su to send them off on the journey from the sorcerer tribe to Yulong mainland's entrance to Earth. It was not difficult for Yunjian to get here from Earth. Wulan would inform Yunjian once there was news, and Yunjian would definitely come to Yulong mainland at once. Therefore, even though Lan Su was reluctant to part, it was not to the point of parting forever. At the same time, Yunjian and the other two had already passed through the stone tunnel back to Earth and exited through the tunnel entrance. Just as they exited, they realized that Lin Xiaochu, Lin Meiyan, and the rest had not left. Chapter 1197. Hey, you guys are finally out. I've been waiting for you guys for a long time. Lin Meiyan rushed over to Yunjian before Lin Xiaochu did. She wanted to reach out and hold Yunjian's hand like a good friend. Previously, anyone could see Lin Meiyan's attitude towards Yunjian. Lin Meiyan's previous attitude was that she couldn't wait for Yunjian to die immediately. But now, it was a completely different tune. Lin Meiyen's attempt to grab Yun Jian's arm when she ran over was written all over her face with an ulterior motive. When Yun Jian saw Lin Meiyen pouncing towards her, she couldn't help but smile coldly. Then, in the next second, she stealthily avoided Lin Meiyen's hand. Yun Jian stealthily avoided Lin Meiyen, who was pouncing towards her, causing Lin Meiyen to glare at her fiercely. Lin Meiyen glared at Yun Jian as if she wanted Yun Jian to die. Then, she instantly put on a fawning expression and came over again. "What's wrong? It's only been a few days. Don't you recognize me?" Lin Meiyen said as she fiddled with her hair coquettishly. At the same time, she threw a coquettish glance at Immerse, who was not far away. Ci's gaze and methods were too ruthless. In addition, Ce was Yun Jian's man. Previously, when Yun Jian killed the pack of wolves, Lin Meiyen was frightened. So, Lin Meiyen didn't dare to provoke Yun Jian at this moment. One had to know that Yun Jian's look when she killed the wolves was a whole new level of ruthlessness. How could a normal girl be like her? Because of this, Lin Meiyen didn't dare to get close to Yun Jian's man no matter what. However, as soon as Lin Meiyen threw a coquettish glance at Immerse, she saw Immerse move his head aside. His calm and cold face made Lin Meiyen eat another loss. Yun Jian saw Lin Meiyen's actions clearly and couldn't help but sneer. She didn't intend to stay here any longer and was about to leave with Ce and Immerse Sr. "Let's go," Yun Jian said softly, then walked side by side with Ce, followed by Immerse Senator. The three of them walked towards the tunnel leading out of the tomb. "Are you leaving?" This time, it was not Lin Xiaochu or Lin Meiyen who spoke up to stop Yun Jian, who wanted to hook up with her after seeing how capable she was. It was Lu Guodong, the archaeologist who had been very helpful to Yun Jian and Ce not long ago. "Yes." Yun Jian nodded but didn't say anything else. "Have a safe journey, we'll meet again if fate allows." Lu Guodong cupped his hands towards Yun Jian and the other two in a very professional manner. "Thank you," Yun Jian also smiled, then walked out with Ce and Immerse Sr. Hey, you guys are leaving just like that?" "You guys." Lin Xiaochu wanted to chase after Yun Jian but was stopped by Senior Huchiroe, who she was thinking about. Ning Xia stood in place and thought for a while, then she ran towards Yun Jian and took out a very precious handkerchief embroidered with two mandarin ducks playing in the water. Ning Xia handed the handkerchief to Yun Jian, then took a deep breath and smiled sincerely. "This is for you, I personally embroidered it. I hope you guys can be happy forever." "Hee, my house is in Ja Province's Ning City. I don't know if your house is far from mine, but my house is by the sea. If you guys want to go out during the summer vacation, you can come to the beach near my house and eat seafood." Chapter 1198. After Ningxia gave the address, she looked at Yun Jian with sincerity as if waiting for Yun Jian's reaction. Yun Jian merely blinked up and down. After 2 seconds of silence, Yun Jian smirked and answered Ningxia softly, "Sure." If Qing Yu, who had been following Yun Jian around, was here and witnessed this, she would have exclaimed in shock. Slaying God, the #1 on the international secret agent ranking, had actually agreed to an invitation from someone she had met during her journey. Yun Jian wanted to decline, but the reason she agreed was simple. She saw gratitude in Ningxiao's eyes. It was gratitude for saving her life. Another reason was that Xiao Yunju had mentioned earlier that he wanted to travel by the sea during the summer vacation because he could enjoy fresh seafood. Serene City was a coastal area and was close to the sea. There was also a small island in Serene City which was a sacred spot for seaside vacations. Therefore, Yun Jian did not reject Ningxia's offer. Yun Jian had saved Ningxia and that was obvious to all. Earlier, in the hotel in Hassa village, the group of robbers came to steal things and women in the middle of the night. They mainly stole women. In a poor area like Hausa village, women were considered precious. Many men could not afford to marry a wife. Therefore, if Yun Jian had not struck the robber who wanted to take Ningxia away with a butterfly knife, Ningxia would have undoubtedly been taken away by the group of premeditated robbers. If Yun Jian had not saved her, the owner of the hotel, Sartana's daughter, Eliza, would have been raped by the robbers one after another. Ningxia would have ended up like Lin Xiaochu. Lin Xiaochu was no longer a virgin. A disobedient girl like her had tasted the forbidden fruit since she had gotten a boyfriend a long time ago. Later on, she would have to sleep with every boyfriend she had. As Ningxia was closer to Lin Xiaochu and they were roommates in university, Lin Xiaochu had told Ningxia about it in a boastful tone. However, Ningxia was different. Her family was stricter and she was more old-fashioned, thinking that a girl should only give herself to someone on her wedding night after she got married. If Ningxia had been raped by the robbers a few days ago, she would probably have committed suicide. She was the kind of woman who would rather commit suicide than be humiliated. In Ningxia's heart, Yun Jian had saved her life. In Ningxia's heart, she thought that Yun Jian was supposed to be someone high and mighty. Therefore, Ningxia was overjoyed when she heard that Yun Jian had agreed to let her travel near her home. She had even exchanged contact numbers with Yun Jian and reminded Yun Jian to visit her home when she was free. She would definitely treat Yun Jian well. Under Ningxia's grateful gaze, Ningxia left. She rushed back to Country Z's Longmen City that very night. After sending Yun Jian to the airport, Ce brought Immerse back to an Hun group. After all, it took time and effort to manage a large organization. When Yun Jian returned to Gu Yunjian's house in Country Z's Longmen City, Xiao Yunzhu skipped over with Duanli and Duanya. The trio glanced at Yun Jian but did not see Ce. Xiao Yunzhu then asked curiously, "Where's Ce Gij? He's not back yet." Yun Jian looked at her brother's chubby cheeks and pinched them. She could not help asking, "Have you been obedient recently?" Xiao Yunzhu shook his head like a rattledrum. "Of course, I've been obedient. I'm a man now." Chapter 1199. Summer break was always the time that students looked forward to the most because there were 2 months of holiday. It was enough time for students to indulge in the joy of the holiday and feel like they were free birds instead of students. No one could restrain them, and no one could control them to go to school. No teacher could use a commanding tone to make them do unpleasant things. Xiao Yunzhu, Duanli, and Duanya finally had summer break, and the 3 of them really wanted to relax. This time, when Xiao Yunzhu saw that Yun Jian had returned from a long trip, he couldn't help but look at Yun Jian with anticipation. In fact, Xiao Yunzhu had asked Yun Jian where is big brother Ce, because he wanted Ce to take the 3 of them out to play. Xiao Yunzhu knew that big brother Ce doted on him the most. Even big sister didn't dote on him as much as big brother Ce. If he wanted to go out to play, big brother Ce would definitely agree to take him. Moreover, Duanli had asked Little Hui about it, and Little Hui had said that big brother Ce doted on him so much because he wanted to woo his big sister. Little Hui had also said that as long as he helped big brother Ce woo his big sister, big brother Ce would treat him even better. Yun Jian had no idea that she had been betrayed by her little brother. When she heard that Xiao Yunzhu and the other 2 wanted to go out to play, she immediately squatted down and looked at Xiao Yunzhu, nodding. "Okay, where do little Zhu, Chestnut, and Yaya want to go?" Yun Jian asked. "Yay, we can go out to play. We want to go to the beach. Big sister, we want to go to the beach. There's a lot of seafood to eat, and we can go swimming. There's also a beach with small crabs to catch on the beach. Little Hui from our class has been there before, and he said that if he didn't go to the beach, he would regret it for the rest of his life. Xiao Yunju clapped his hands innocently, unable to control himself. What regret? You are still young. Yun Jian gently patted Xiao Yunju's mouth, telling him that it was inauspicious to say that. Yun Jian knew Xiao Yunju quite well. She knew that Xiao Yunju wanted to go to the seaside, so she agreed to go to Ningxia, which was a good choice. At the very least, it would be much more convenient to have an acquaintance lead the way when they went out to play. Usually, when traveling, they were unfamiliar with the place and people, and it was easy for them to take detours. There were no navigation systems in this era. Mobile phones could only be used to make calls and send text messages. At most, they could play small games like Snake. In the end, she told Qin Yiru that the whole family would go out to play. At that time, Gu Junjian would also apply for leave to go with them. As for the time, it was set to be a week later because Gu Junjian would only have time to apply for leave after a week. Ce couldn't come because she was busy. However, Ce said that he would try his best to come and asked Yunjian to take good care of Xiao Yunju and the others while they went out to play first. The week passed by quickly and it was the day before they left for the trip in the blink of an eye. Since it took some time to travel from Longmen City to Serene City by car, Xiao Yunju and the others were as excited as if they were going on a spring outing the next day. They dragged Yunjian to the supermarket in Longmen City that night. I want to buy 3 bags of potato chips. In the supermarket, Xiao Yunju was standing under a food rack. Since he could not reach the height of the chips, he tiptoed to ask Yunjian to help him get them. Just as Yunjian turned around happily, she saw a woman in her 30s or 40s, dressed to the nines, walking over to push Xiao Yunju away with her perfect figure and put the remaining 5 bags of chips into her shopping cart. Chapter 1200. Yunju nearly lost his footing when he was shoved by the woman who was dressed to the nines like she was in her 20s despite being a middle-aged woman. Fortunately, Xiao Yunju reacted quickly. He immediately reached out and grabbed a handful of food racks to prevent himself from falling to the ground. However, because he grabbed a handful of food racks, he accidentally knocked the pile of potato chips with different flavors onto the ground. The potato chips on the racks even bounced back from Xiao Yunju's grab. In the next second, a large pile of packaged potato chips all fell to the ground. The woman was scared silly. She pushed the shopping cart and saw Xiao Yunju tripping over a large pile of potato chips on the food racks after she pushed him. Therefore, she complained about Xiao Yunju. Hey, what's wrong with you, little brat? Whose kid is this? Why are you so careless? You dropped so many potato chips on the ground. You have to pay for it. As she spoke, the woman seemed to be afraid that she would be implicated in this matter. Therefore, as if to clear herself of suspicion, she hurriedly went to call a very short, fat female employee who was dressed in a supermarket employee uniform. She also had big nostrils. Look, this kid. I really don't know whose family he is from. He actually made such a mess here. There are so many potato chips. Although they're not expensive, it's not good for him to cause trouble here, right? The gorgeously dressed woman seemed to be completely in the right as she spoke to the employee. Especially the sentence, although they're not expensive. The gorgeously dressed woman's intention was to let others think that her family was rich, so she added that sentence. When Xiao Yunju almost fell to the ground just now, Duan Li and Duanya had already ran over to help Xiao Yunju up. Yun Jian, who was a distance away, had also arrived here. She saw the whole situation clearly just now, especially when the woman pushed Xiao Yunju. She saw that Xiao Yunju accidentally dropped all the potato chips on the food racks. She was afraid that she would be implicated, so she ran over to the employee to point out Xiao Yunju's faults. She even said that Xiao Yunju was causing trouble here. Yun Jian resisted the urge to pull out a butterfly knife and stab the gorgeously dressed woman to death on the spot. The woman was still complaining to the supermarket employee beside her, and the latter wanted nothing more than to chase Xiao Yunju, the troublemaker, out of the supermarket. She walked over. The gorgeously dressed woman glanced at Yun Jian. She didn't know that Yun Jian was related to Xiao Yunju. She continued to point out Xiao Yunju's faults to the female employee. Jie, Yunju called out innocently looking at Yun Jian. Sister. Hearing how Xiao Yunju addressed Yun Jian, the woman, who was still pointing out Xiao Yunju's faults, was stunned. She then saw Yun Jian walk forward. Yun Jian didn't say anything. She walked over and grabbed the woman's head. She then fiercely slammed the woman onto the food racks. Yun Jian smashed the food rack with the woman's head, causing the entire rack to shake with a clang. Needless to say, one could imagine how painful it must be for the woman's forehead to be slammed like that. Ah! Ah! The woman screamed. The female employee was scared silly. She stared blankly at Yun Jian's actions. Some people who were still shopping in the supermarket stopped and watched the woman scolding Xiao Yunju. Now, they saw Yun Jian walk up and grab the woman's head and slam it onto the food racks. The people around them gasped, only to see Yun Jian let go of the woman's hand and tossed her to the ground. Chapter 1201. Yun Jian's words coupled with her actions just now. The people around her were all shocked by her actions. What she did just now, was that something a teenage girl could do? The moment Yun Jian grabbed the woman's hair and slammed her head onto the food rack, the surrounding people almost screamed out loud. In this kind of public place, especially in front of Yun Jian, she was only a teenage girl. How could she do such a shocking thing? The people present were all dumbfounded. The female staff member who was pulled over by the woman just now was so scared that her legs couldn't move. The scene just now was painful just by looking at it, not to mention that Yun Jian directly grabbed her and slapped her. When the female staff member came back to her senses, she realized that something was wrong. She quickly ran to the supermarket's entrance and shouted for help in a panic, "Security! Security! Something happened! Come quickly!" The woman who pushed Xiao Yunju and arrogantly accused Xiao Yunju just now was slammed onto the ground by Yun Jian. She was in so much pain that she almost suffocated. "Ah! Ah! You hit me! Ah!" After falling to the ground, the woman rolled a few times and was in so much pain that her whole body was roaring. After rolling a few times on the ground, she reached out to touch her forehead that was grabbed by Yun Jian and slammed onto the food rack. She felt that there seemed to be some liquid flowing down from there. When the woman touched her forehead and put her hand in front of her eyes, she was so scared that she almost fainted. The woman even forgot to stand up. Following that, a roar was heard. She wailed like a ghost and howled like a wolf. "Oh! Blood! Blood! Ah!" After howling a few times, the woman turned to look at Yun Jian with hatred. Her piercing gaze looked like she wanted to tear Yun Jian into pieces as she howled incessantly, "You're the one who's going to kill me. Murder! She's going to murder. She's going to murder. She's going to murder for no reason." The woman seemed to think that the matter wasn't serious enough and started shouting. When the surrounding people saw the blood, they all trembled in fear and did not dare to step forward. Some people didn't even dare to look at the blood on the woman's head. In 1999, people's lives were gradually becoming more prosperous. Usually, even if someone's finger was accidentally cut by a kitchen knife and bled, they would be scared half to death. Needless to say, the woman's forehead was slammed by Yun Jian onto the food rack. The wound split open and blood gushed out. The woman seemed to have realized the danger she was in. She began to shout, "Do you people have any morals? She hit me just now, and all of you just watched. I'm going to die. I'm dying, there's so much blood. Hurry and send me to the hospital." When Yunjian heard the woman's cries, she was not moved at all. Instead, she slowly took 2 steps towards the woman. This woman did not show any mercy to Xiao Yunzhu just now. When Yunjian took 2 steps towards the woman, an even crazier voice was heard. "Mom." Yunjian turned her head and saw a girl who looked very similar to the woman. She was dressed similarly and ran towards her. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell that Yunjian was the one who hit the woman. When the girl, who was about the same age as Yunjian, saw the situation, she was completely unreasonable. She picked up a mop from the side and rushed towards Yunjian. "Ah! How dare you hit my mom? You!" Just now, Yunjian had been away from the woman for a long time, so she quickly subdued the woman. The surrounding people would only think that Yunjian was an ordinary girl, just that she was ruthless. Only the girl who had just rushed over had a weapon in her hand. Although it was just a mop. But with this mop, the people present felt that Yunjian's beautiful face would definitely be torn open. She was not a secret agent or an assassin. How could she take this ruthless mop? Chapter 1202. This girl was ruthless to the extreme. She saw her mother fall to the ground, her forehead split open, and blood gushed out. At the same time, her mother was still desperately shouting, "It hurts, I'm going to die, I'm going to die." This girl didn't care who was right or wrong, and she didn't care if her mother did anything wrong. This girl was in her youth. She also relied on her good looks to fool around with boys in school, and she also chatted with boys in the underworld. Listening to the boys in the underworld boasting about their power, this girl thought that she was really protected by a powerful character, so whether it was in school or in the underworld. The girl felt that even if she provoked others, she could be protected by the group of boys. Therefore, the girl developed an arrogant and domineering character. Even if the girls in the school dared to say something bad about her, even if it was a joke, she would immediately turn hostile and beat her. Sometimes, she would even lead a group of people to surround a girl and beat her up. However, this kind of behavior, in the girl's view, she felt that it was not shameful to attract the attention of boys. It was in such an environment that she grew up. This girl just saw her mother fall to the ground with her head bleeding. She didn't care who was right or wrong at all. After rushing to the side, she picked up the mop and rushed toward Yunjian. At this moment, the girl had already come to Yunjian with the mop. As she ran, she shouted a series of roars like flowing water, "Go to hell! You dare to hit my mother, you go to hell!" While shouting, the girl had already stood in front of Yunjian with the mop. At the same time, the surrounding group of supermarket onlookers were looking forward to seeing a bloody scene. The girl had already smashed the mop on Yunjian's head. A few seconds before this, the female staff who ran out to call for help had hurried back with a few security guards, but they just saw the scene of the girl smashing the mop on Yunjian. The group of onlookers all gasped. Someone exclaimed a few seconds ago, "What's the matter? That girl is finished." Oh hey, that mop, unless she has the ability of an agent killer in the movie, otherwise, it's a pity for that beautiful face. As soon as someone spoke, someone behind exclaimed and pointed to Yunjian over there, "Look, that." Everyone around raised their eyes and looked over. Yunjian, however, stood still on the spot. The mop in the girl's hand had been smashed fiercely toward Yunjian's head. Just as the mop was about to hit the top of Yunjian's head, it was about to hit her head hard. Yunjian looked forward, she suddenly stretched out her left hand, and she didn't even look at the trajectory of the mop above her head. Just like that, in front of everyone, it was as if she had eyes on the top of her head. She accurately stretched out her left hand and caught the mop that was smashing down at her with great inertia. When the mop was swung, the force was very strong, but Yun Jian didn't even look at the mop. She just blindly stretched out her hand and caught the mop. This behavior made the customers who were standing around and watching the show, as well as the female staff member who had called several security guards back, stunned. But just as everyone was stunned, Yun Jian had already pulled the mop, and directly pulled the girl who was holding the other end of the mop, who was already dumbfounded, towards her. The girl didn't stand firm, and after being pulled by Yun Jian, her whole body swayed back and forth, and she fell directly to the ground. At this moment, Yun Jian had already stepped on the mop pole fiercely. Gotcha! In the next second, the mop pole was easily broken in half by Yun Jian. The girl's hand was under the mop pole, and Yun Jian's step was like torture to the girl. Ah! 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 The girl wanted to retract her hand, but Yun Jian's strength was strong, and she couldn't retract her hand at all. Suddenly, screams spread throughout the whole place. Yun Jian's aloofness and ferocious capability struck fear into those who were present. Chapter 1203. This little girl must be a martial artist. Although some people objected to the words of the person who was obviously obsessed with the assassins in the movies, no one objected to the fact that Yun Jian was capable. After all, her strength was displayed in front of everyone. That kind of strength. Let alone smashing Yun Jian's head with the mop, the girl couldn't even get close to Yun Jian's side. Gotcha! Gotcha! However, at this moment, the frightening sound of bones breaking rang out once again. Everyone turned to look again when they heard the noise, only to see Yun Jian stepping on the mop pole. Although the mop pole was broken, she could still control the girl's hand that was pinned to the ground by the mop pole by stepping on it. As for the gotcha, gotcha sound, it was the sound of the girl's hand being pressed to the ground by Yun Jian with the mop pole. The bones in her fingers were broken. The girl desperately wanted to retract her hand, but she couldn't. She was in so much pain that she was sweating all over. She desperately begged for mercy. Ah! Ah! Let go! Let go! I was wrong. Let go quickly. This was a begging sound, but also an order. Yun Jian sneered, but the force under her feet became even stronger. You're not wrong, it's your mother who's wrong. She pushed my brother just now. Not only did she not apologize, she even framed my brother for causing trouble here. However, you'll have to suffer for her. Yun Jian sneered. At the same time, she glanced at the woman who was sitting on the ground in a sorry state. This woman was obviously the girl's mother. The two of them looked exactly the same. After Yun Jian finished speaking, she exerted more force under her feet and stepped harder on the mop pole. Ah! Mom, I'm going to die, it hurts. Please forgive me, I was wrong, I was wrong. The girl was suppressed. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't retract her hand that was being stepped on by Yun Jian under the mop pole. Because of the pain, the girl began to blabber and beg for mercy. Min Min. Min Min. When the woman saw her daughter being stepped on by Yun Jian like this, all the cells in her body trembled. At this moment, the woman regretted pushing Xiao Yunju the most. If he didn't treat Xiao Yunju like this, there wouldn't be this scene at all. I was wrong, I was wrong. It was my fault just now. I pushed your brother. Not only did I push your brother, I even framed your brother for causing trouble here. It's all my fault. Please let my daughter go. The woman covered the blood that was slowly flowing from her forehead. She had been arrogant just now, but now she didn't dare to say a word. She could only desperately beg Yun Jian for mercy. A woman could beat and scold other people's children at will, but when it came to her own daughter, she doted on her to the bottom of her heart. Now that she saw Yunjian treating her precious baby like this, the woman felt that her heart was about to stop beating. She desperately shouted at Yunjian and begged. The surrounding group of people were dumbfounded. At first, everyone thought that Yunjian had inexplicably rushed up and hit the girl. But until now, when they heard the woman's confession, they realized that it was this woman who bullied her brother first. It was understandable that Yunjian was so angry just now. After all, anyone who saw an adult bullying a child would feel ashamed. From the corner of her eye, she saw Xiao Yunju looking at her with trembling eyes. Yunjian knew that she was too cruel in front of Xiao Yunju, so she let go of her foot after hearing the woman's apology. "Get lost," Yunjian said coldly, her eyes glaring at the woman. Chapter 1204. After Yunjian's first sentence, the woman and the girl heaved a sigh of relief. This little girl was too scary. She was too scary. Her methods were actually so ruthless. She was so cruel that she didn't seem human. Just as she was about to escape, she heard Yunjian's voice again. Hearing that Yunjian only wanted her to leave the potato chips behind, she could leave. The woman heaved a sigh of relief. If she hadn't been greedy and wanted to eat potato chips with this flavor, none of this would have happened. The woman realized that the blood on her forehead had stopped gushing out, so she stopped covering it. She rushed to her shopping cart, reached out and took out the 5 bags of potato chips, then ran back to Yunjian. The woman put all the potato chips in Yunjian's arms as if avoiding the plague, then she turned and rushed to her daughter, grabbed her daughter's hand and ran to the door. This little girl was too scary. The way she looked at her just now, it was as if she wanted to kill someone. The woman dragged her daughter out of the supermarket quickly, even abandoning the things in the shopping cart. Just as she ran to the security guards. One of the security guards stopped the woman, wanting her to cooperate with him to solve the mess. After all, Yunjian had hit someone, and the woman had pushed Xiao Yunju before. After this, they would probably check the surveillance cameras in the supermarket and hand it over to the police. In short, there would be a lot of procedures. However, the woman seemed to be scared by Yunjian. She grabbed her daughter, ignoring the injury on her head and her daughter's broken hand. She just wanted to leave this place. Away from Yunjian, such a scary person. "Madam, please stay and cooperate." Just as the security guard said this, the woman continued to run out in a panic, pushing away the security guard who wanted to stop her. "No, no, no, I want to go home, I want to leave, get out of my way." With that, the woman pushed away the security guard who was blocking her, pulled her daughter and rushed out. She would rather not have Yunjian compensate her, now she just wanted to leave this place. Because Yunjian was too scary. Yunjian couldn't help but smile coldly as she watched the woman flee with the other girls. Since the woman herself didn't care about it, the security guards naturally didn't like to meddle in other people's business. Thus, this matter was left unsettled. At this moment, Yunjian retracted her gaze and walked towards Xiao Yunju. The surrounding people knew that Yunjian did not beat people up for no reason. In addition, they had just seen Yunjian's strange skills. At this moment, some people wanted to stay and see what she was going to do next. Yunjian walked up to Xiao Yunju and gently stroked his hair. She paused for a moment before asking, "Are you afraid?" She clearly saw Xiao Yunju's body tremble. Xiao Yunju looked at Yunjian, obviously a little scared. He shook his head, then nodded, "Sister, I don't feel pain." "Sister, what you did to them just now, isn't it too much?" Xiao Yunju didn't know anything, he just asked according to his own thoughts. Yunjian, who was standing in front of Xiao Yunju, smiled and said, "Xiao Yunju will understand when he grows up." Yunjian looked into the distance when she said this. Then, a faint smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. It was so strange that it made people feel a little scared. Chapter 1205. Yunjian didn't know that Xiao Yunju wouldn't understand if she told him this so early, but Yunjian had to let him know one thing. People would only look down on themselves if they were strong. When Xiao Yunju grew up, even if he had a powerful sister. But what if one day she was no longer around? Who could he ask to help him? Xiao Yunju shook his head. He definitely didn't understand Yunjian's words. However, the people standing around the supermarket were shocked and they heard Yunjian's words to her brother. The people present didn't expect that this young girl would have such a mature mind. Not only that, but she also used such a serious tone to teach her brother. The people around couldn't help but sigh at the fact that a young girl could realize this. However, there were also people who silently mocked Yunjian in their hearts. How powerful did she think she was? It was as if she had really experienced something incredible. However, if these people knew that Yunjian had been trained by the organization as an agent in her previous life, there would only be a handful of people left. Out of the hundreds of agents, only a handful would be left alive in this world. The weak would be eliminated. If the hundreds of agents died because they were too weak, they would not be able to survive. Those people who were secretly mocking Yunjian in their hearts definitely wouldn't think so. As a person who survived by licking blood from the muzzle of a knife and gun, her understanding must be different. Xiao Yunju scratched his head. He thought for 2 seconds, then pouted and said to Yunjian, "Sister, I think I understand a little." Yunjian nodded slightly. Then, she handed 3 bags of potato chips to Xiao Yunju and the other 2, keeping 2 for herself. She rubbed Xiao Yunju and the other 2's heads and said, "Go find the snacks you want to eat." Xiao Yunju and the other 2 immediately ran to find snacks to eat on the trip after hearing Yunjian's words. Because they were leaving for the trip tomorrow, Xiao Yunju and the other 2 were extremely excited. On the way home, the 3 of them held each other's hands. Xiao Yunju held Duanli's hand, and Duanli held Duanya's hand. Yunjian held Xiao Yunju's hand in one hand, and the 3 babies bought a big bag of snacks from the supermarket in the other hand. Qin Yiru was at home preparing the daily necessities for the trip tomorrow, and Si wasn't at home, so Yunjian brought Xiao Yunju and the other 2 to the supermarket to buy things. Now that they were carrying a big bag home, they had just reached home. Yunjian saw Qin Yiru's but half sat on the sofa, with her hand in the travel bag. She was fiddling with the things to bring tomorrow. There was a person dressed like a rich lady standing in front of Qin Yiru. Yang's wife, and Qin's, a few family friends' business, a few asses, and Shiti Mrs. Yang's husband was a businessman. His business was very big, and her family was very rich. Mrs. Yang herself was a woman with a very good temperament. She was a real rich wife. However, Mrs. Yang was different from other rich wives. Qin Yiru came from the countryside. Knowing this, Mrs. Yang didn't dislike Qin Yiru. Instead, she became very good friends with Qin Yiru. The reason why Mrs. Yang became good friends with Qin Yiru was that Mrs. Yang was also good friends with Dong Yuan. For the trip tomorrow, Yunjian's family and Mrs. Yang's family would be traveling together. Dong Yuan had to give up because she was busy. Chapter 1206. Seeing that Yunjian had returned with Xiao Yunju and Yunjian with a big bag of snacks, Mrs. Yang quickly told Qin Yiru, "Yiru, they're back." As she spoke, Mrs. Yang went over to help Yunjian carry the large and heavy plastic bag in a friendly manner. Yunjian thanked her politely. Auntie Yang. Xiao Yunzhu and Yunjian ran to Mrs. Yang and greeted her affectionately. There's mung bean soup in the kitchen. Xiao Jian, bring Xiao Zhu and the rest to get it. Qin Yiru stopped what she was doing and told Yunjian. Yunjian nodded softly. Just as Yunjian said that, the door opened again and Yunyi came in. Just as Yunyi entered, another petite figure followed closely. Yunjian narrowed her eyes when she saw Yunyi pulling Qin Yu in. Qin Yu let go of Yunyi's hand shyly the moment she entered the house with Yunyi. Hello, Sister Jian, Auntie, Qin Yu greeted Yunjian and Qin Yiru. You came at the right time. There's mung bean soup in the kitchen. Go get it. Qin Yiru pretended not to see Qin Yu and Yunyi holding hands and stood up as she spoke. Qin Yu was going on this trip as well. After the group was done with the mung bean soup, they returned to their rooms and sleepwalked. When Yunjian returned to her and Si Yi's villa, she was not in a hurry to sleep. Instead, she took out her tablet and logged into the secret assassin website that she had not logged in for a long time. Just as she logged in with the code name Slaying God, a pop-up window popped up. Yunjian narrowed her eyes and clicked on it, but her attention was attracted by the black headline on the webpage. It said, "The Third Global Underground Tea Party was held in Country B on August 1, 1999. Yunjian's eyes flashed when she saw the title. Don't be fooled by the name of the gathering. The Third Global Underground Tea Party. If ordinary people saw these words, they would only think that it was a gathering of international bigwigs. However, with the word underground, the meaning was completely different. Yunjian didn't want to talk too much about it. In short, the word on the ground meant that the people attending this gathering were either secret agents, killers, or members of international mercenary groups. To put it bluntly, this was a global gathering of the underground forces. Such underground gatherings were rarely held. So far, there had only been 2 such gatherings in the world. Yunjian had participated in it once. At that time, she was just a nobody on the secret agent list. However, he did not expect that the Third Underground Tea Party would be held soon. Beep beep beep. Right then, a pop-up window popped up on the webpage. Yunjian opened the chat window and saw that it was Snake Lizard who was looking for her. The message displayed in the chat window was simple and clear. It said, "Slaying, the Third Underground Tea Party is starting soon. Do you want to go?" The words, Tea Party, were obviously a cover-up for the underground forces. The people attending this gathering were either killers or secret agents. To put it bluntly, this was a meet and greet for the secret agents and killers. The lights were off in the room. Yunjian stared at the computer screen for 2 seconds. In the dark, her lips curled into a slight smile. After a pause, Yunjian reached out and typed a word on the laptop keyboard swiftly with her fingers before clicking send. Chapter 1207. After Yunjian sent the message, Snake Lizard's short reply popped up in less than 2 seconds, "Okay." After seeing Snake Lizard's reply, Yunjian stopped smiling. She closed her laptop and put it on the bedside table, then turned over and fell asleep. August 1, 1999. There was still some time until now. The next morning, Yunjian was used to waking up early because the train ticket was booked at 7:30 a.m. She woke up at 5 a.m. Breakfast was ready when she came back from her usual workout. After breakfast, Qin Yiru brought a group of people to Mrs. Yang's house to wait for her family. Mrs. Yang cleaned up quite quickly, but her son dragged his feet. He dragged his feet for a full 20 minutes before he came out. Mrs. Yang had a son and a daughter. Her son's name was Yang Lin, and her daughter's name was Yang Xiao. Yang Xiao was a very obedient little girl. She was only 14 years old, 2 years younger than Yunjian. When Mrs. Yang and Qin Yiru were close, her daughter, Yang Xiao, often went to Yunjian's house to play. Lan Su was still there at that time. Yang Xiao and Lan Su got along quite well, and they even became friends. So Yunjian knew Yang Xiao too. When she saw Yunjian, Yang Xiao stuck her tongue out at Yunjian, then called out softly, "Big sister." After that, Yang Xiao asked Yunjian, "Big sister, why didn't big sister Lan Su come?" "She went back to her hometown." "She won't be back for a while," Yunjian said naturally. Oh. Yang Xiao and Lan Su got along well, so she was a little disappointed when she heard that Lan Su didn't come. At that moment, Mrs. Yang's son, Yang Lin, finally walked out of the house with his hands behind his head. He looked like a hooligan. "Why did you come out so late? What were you doing?" Mrs. Yang scolded her son in a low voice. Then, she turned around and looked at Qin Yiru apologetically. Mrs. Yang smiled apologetically and said to Qin Yiru, "My Lin, is a little late. We can set off now." "It's okay. It's normal for children to like to sleep in the morning." Qin Yiru laughed. Just as he finished speaking, Yang Lin's slightly lazy but hooligan-like voice sounded again, "Wait, my friend want to go too." Yang Lin was already in his 20s, so it wasn't strange for him to have a girlfriend. Mrs. Yang resisted the urge to scold her son and forced herself not to curse out loud. "It's almost time to leave." "Where are they?" Yunjian was standing not far away. When she saw Yang Lin like this, she knew that Mrs. Yang couldn't control her idle son even if she wanted to. Yunjian smiled slightly and adjusted the sling bag on her shoulder. "Mom, what's the hurry? Didn't they say that they're coming?" Yang Lin acted as if it had nothing to do with him. As soon as Yang Lin finished speaking, he pointed at the two figures not far away who seemed to be in a hurry and said, "Look, aren't they here?" As soon as Yang Lin finished speaking, the two figures appeared in front of everyone. Yang Lin's girlfriend, Lu Mei, had a lot of makeup on and looked a little scary. Yang Lin's friend was called Zhang Jin. Yang Lin's friend also dyed his hair blonde and wore earrings. One look and anyone could tell that he was a delinquent. When Yang Lin's girlfriend walked over, she saw Yunjian standing not far away. Yunjian was dressed neatly. Even if she was wearing clothes from a street stall, it couldn't hide her dazzling radiance. Lu Mei was quite good-looking herself. When she saw Yunjian, a girl who was prettier than her, the faint feeling of displeasure in her heart instantly exploded. Especially from Lu Mei's appearance, one could tell that she was a person who paid a lot of attention to her appearance. Lu Mei glared at Yunjian and then walked to Yang Lin. She didn't care that Yang Lin's mother, Mrs. Yang, was still there. She walked over and hugged Yang Lin, kissing him in front of everyone. "Honey, I'm here," Lu Mei said coquettishly. Then she turned to look at Yunjian and Qin Yiru. Seeing that Yunjian and Qin Yiru were all wearing ordinary clothes without any branded clothes, Lu Mei scolded them in front of Mrs. Yang and said to Yang Lin. Chapter 1208. Especially when she saw Qin Yiru, Lu Mei's deep disgust was even more obvious. Usually, people of Lu Mei's age would not be willing to team up with people in their 40s or 50s for a trip because there would be a generation gap. Especially when she saw Qin Yiru, Lu Mei was even more disgusted. Although her family's financial situation had improved, Qin Yiru was used to wearing clothes bought from the roadside. These clothes and pants were just street goods that people kept talking about. Lu Mei saw Qin Yiru and Yunjian's ordinary clothes and knew that they did not come from a rich family. That was why she said that Qin Yiru and Yunjian were country bumpkins. Moreover, Lu Mei did not give any face to her boyfriend, Yang Lin's mother, Mrs. Yang. After that, Lu Mei even tucked her extra hair behind her ear, pretending to be very fashionable. Mrs. Yang did not expect her rebellious son to find such a condescending girlfriend. She was exasperated at her son's failure to live up to her expectations. At the same time, Mrs. Yang was so angry that she scolded her son for finding a woman like Lu Mei. "Lin Yiru is my good friend. You'd better keep your girlfriend in check or we won't welcome her." Although Mrs. Yang usually looked gentle and weak, she was actually a very strong-willed woman. Lu Mei had criticized Qin Yiru and Yun Jian in front of Mrs. Yang just now, and it had infuriated Mrs. Yang, so she retorted directly. Mrs. Yang's meaning was very clear. She was warning Lu Mei that this trip was organized by her and Qin Yiru's family. If Lu Mei disliked them, she could get lost. Lu Mei was shocked by Mrs. Yang's words. Then, Lu Mei was afraid that Mrs. Yang would really not allow her to go with them, so Lu Mei's arrogant face instantly changed. At the same time, Lu Mei looked at Mrs. Yang with a fawning expression on her heavily made-up face. "Auntie, I've always been outspoken. If I say anything bad, please don't blame me." Although Lu Mei said so, she was rolling her eyes in her heart at this moment. However, she was thinking, is Yang Lin's mother crazy? She's actually helping Qin Yiru's family, who are dressed like country bumpkins and are obviously poor. Lu Mei had long forgotten that she used to be poor too. Later on, she had a few rich boyfriends and served them well. That was how she became the current her, who was dressed in branded clothes from head to toe. As for Yang Lin, to be honest, he was Lu Mei's financial backer. But in fact, Lu Mei wanted to marry into the Yang family, so she immediately admitted her mistake after hearing Mrs. Yang's words. Humph. Mrs. Yang's mother, Lu's mother's 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 mother's. There was a glint in Yun Jian's eyes before she narrowed them. Obviously, Lu Mei was hostile to him. She had never met Lu Mei, so she didn't know why Lu Mei was hostile. However, Yun Jian always kept her own principles. As long as Lu Mei didn't provoke her or Qin Yiru, Yun Jian wouldn't do anything to her. They took the city bus and soon arrived at the East bus station. After the ticket was checked, they got on the bus. Mrs. Yang and her family got on the bus first. Yun Jian, Qin Yiru, and Lu Mei were one step behind because they went to the bathroom. They walked from the flat ground to the steps of the bus. Lu Mei walked in the front, followed by Qin Yiru. They were about to get on the bus. Yun Jian just came out of the bathroom and came here. The bathroom was only a dozen meters away from the bus stop. When Yun Jian came out of the bathroom, she saw Qin Yiru was about to go up the steps. Lu Mei, who was blocking the steps, suddenly showed a sinister smile. Yun Jian could still see Lu Mei silently say to Qin Yiru, "Ha, country bumpkin." Before she could finish her words, Lu Mei shoved Qin Yiru's foot that was stepping on the steps of the bus in a seemingly unintentional manner. This push pushed Qin Yiru's foot out of the last step of the bus. Chapter 1209. Lu Mei purposely pushed Qin Yiru, trying to make her fall down the stairs. No one saw her move, but Yun Jian happened to see it. Mrs. Yang, who was sitting on the bus, immediately noticed that Qin Yiru had lost her footing just as she was about to get on the bus. She fell half a meter off the ground with her back facing the ground. Mrs. Yang, who witnessed the scene, stood up in shock. She dashed over, shouting desperately at the same time, "Yiru!" However, Qin Yiru had already fallen down with her back facing the ground at an astonishing speed. Qin Yiru was already older, in her 40s. She was in her middle age, but her bones had hardened with age. If she fell like this, she would definitely be in trouble. "Mom!" Yun Yi, who was sitting on her seat, quickly stood up and ran toward Qin Yiru when she saw this. However, the speed of falling was always faster than the speed of running. Lu Mei looked innocent on the surface, but the corners of her lips were slightly curled into a faint smile. Lu Mei's lips suddenly stiffened in the next second. After the ticket was checked, Mrs. Yang and the rest sat on the bus. There were many long-distance buses parked beside the bus, and the surrounding buses were also filled with people. Just as the crowd inadvertently caught a glimpse of a petite figure dashing toward the bus to Serene City from the restroom at the speed of a falcon, the crowd turned around to look. The people around all turned their heads and glanced over. In the next second, everyone present widened their eyes as they accepted the frightening scene that was about to unfold before their very eyes. From the toilet a dozen meters away from the bus, Yun Jian sprinted toward the bus like a sprinting leopard or a falcon that had spotted a scrumptious meal. Could it be that she's going to save the woman who fell down from the bus over there? The crowd finally realized that Qin Yiru had accidentally fallen down the stairs of the bus. If Qin Yiru fell down, she would definitely be in trouble. On the other side, Yun Jian was running towards Qin Yiru like a gust of wind. The passengers sitting on the surrounding buses were all dumbfounded as they stared at this scene with their eyes wide open. That place was more than 10 meters away from where she was. How could she possibly catch it? Some people thought that they could already see the scene of Qin Yiru falling head first onto the ground. If her head hit the ground first, Qin Yiru would definitely be seriously injured. In fact, it wasn't impossible for such a serious injury to cause problems from the fall. However, before this person could finish shouting in shock, Qin Yi suddenly stopped. Everyone only felt a gust of wind flash past them. In the next second, Yun Jian flashed past. She saw that it was too late for her to reach out to support Qin Yiru, who was about to fall to the ground. Hence, she threw herself towards Qin Yiru. Could it be that she's thinking of? Someone saw Yun Jian's action and was stunned on the spot. However, Yun Jian didn't wait for this group of people to finish shouting in shock. She had already thrown herself onto the ground where Qin Yiru had fallen from more than 10 meters away. The speed of Qin Yiru falling from the air to the ground was definitely less than 4 seconds. If Yun Jian was running, it was absolutely impossible for her to react from more than 10 meters away and reach out to catch Qin Yiru. However, it was different for her to throw herself horizontally. When she threw herself horizontally, Yun Jian's entire body was propelled forward. When she ran to the last step, her whole body happened to fall horizontally onto the ground on this side. Her speed was also unbelievably fast. However, just as Yun Jian threw herself horizontally and used her own body as a meat cushion, the surrounding people were still shocked by Yun Jian's speed, which was faster than a cheetah's running speed. With a bang, Qin Yiru's entire body landed squarely on Yun Jian's body. After being bounced by the soft meat cushion, Qin Yiru was naturally fine. However, even from a distance, the surrounding people could feel the pressure that Yun Jian was under from that smash. Hence, the surrounding people couldn't help but gasp. She was caught. On the other hand, Lu Mei, who was in the car, was completely shocked by Yun Jian's astonishing speed. She could actually react from more than 10 meters away and throw herself over in just a few seconds. Chapter 12:10. Yun Jian had indeed suffered a heavy blow. She groaned, but she did not cry out in pain. Just like that, she caught Qin Yiru's body and did not let Qin Yiru show any signs of injury. This scene caused an uproar in the crowd. What caused an uproar was Yun Jian's running speed. Was she an athlete? How could she run from such a distance? Secondly, when she saw that Qin Yiru was in danger, Yun Jian did not even think about what would happen if she took such a heavy blow. She rushed forward without hesitation and used her own body as a cushion to save Qin Yiru's life. How strong and determined must she be to rush forward and use her own body to take the hit for Chin-Yiru? While everyone was still in shock, Yuni had already jumped down from the bus. Then, she walked over and helped Chin-Yiru, who had fallen on Yunjian, up. "Mom! Are you hurt?" Yuni had trained with Yunjian for a long time, so her strength had improved tremendously. Therefore, when she jumped down from the bus just now, Yuni was very agile. Just as she helped Chin-Yiru up, Yuni glanced at Yunjian. Then, she hurriedly went to help Yunjian up. Although Chin-Yiru had fallen down heavily, Yunjian, who had acted as a cushion for Chin-Yiru, had suffered a heavy blow. Yuni naturally knew that Yunjian's condition was worse than Chin-Yiru's. Therefore, after helping Chin-Yiru up, Yuni immediately bent down to help Yunjian. When the surrounding people saw that Chin-Yiru was helped up by Yuni, they all gasped. They saw that Yunjian was heavily pressed down by Chin-Yiru. Especially when Yunjian's thin and weak body was pressed down by Chin-Yiru's slightly fuller body, she should not be able to stand up. When Mrs. Yang saw this scene, she quickly ran down. Gu Junjian also ran over immediately. Xiao Yunju and the other two were so scared that they almost cried. In the nearby bus, all the passengers saw this scene in front of them. They faintly felt that Yunjian must have been pressed down by this force and could not stand up. The moment Yuni bent down to help Yunjian up, Yunjian's eyes widened. Yunjian, on the other hand, flipped over on the floor like nothing had happened and stood up handsomely. The surrounding people held their breaths when they saw the scene. They were overwhelmed with shock. Yunjian's petite frame stood up like nothing had happened after she was pressed down by Chin-Yiru. What? What kind of joke was this? Could this girl be a member of the Special Forces? In the movies, the Special Forces acted exactly like this girl just now when they were saving people. Xiao Jian, how are you? Are you hurt anywhere? Let me take a look. Chin-Yiru was startled as she ran to Yunjian to take a few glances. Yunjian's eyes were dark as she told Chin-Yiru softly to reassure her, "Mom, I'm fine." After Chin-Yiru repeatedly confirmed that she was fine, Chin-Yiru was persuaded by Yunjian to get on the bus. Even Chin-Yiru did not realize that her accidental step was not an accident. When the passengers on the long-distance buses that were parked nearby saw Yunjian get on the bus, they thought that the incident was over. Just as she was thinking about it, she saw a woman dressed in branded clothes being tossed off the bus not long after Yunjian boarded it. She was dressed to the nines from head to toe. All they saw was the woman being thrown to the ground. Before she could react to the excruciating pain, 5 flying daggers flew past her head and sides at a frightening distance before stabbing into the ground. Chapter 12:11. Of the 5 throwing knives, 1 flew over Lu Mei's head, while the other 4 flew over Lu Mei's left and right arms respectively. Before the crowd recovered from the shock of seeing this frightening throwing knife skill, they heard Yunjian's following words. Did these 5 frightening throwing knives fly out from Yunjian's hands? Did they fly out from Yunjian's hands, a little girl who looked like she was only in her teens? Moreover, these 5 throwing knives directly flew over Lu Mei's body. Wasn't this a skill that could only be seen in the circus? How old was this little girl? What shocked the crowd was Yunjian's following words. Just now, Chin-Yiru fell down from the car. Was it this woman who did it? Moreover, Yunjian's arrogant words made the people present have to look at her in a new light. In this era, there was no security check at the bus station. Even if someone brought a knife, no one would care. Therefore, the crowd was not surprised that Yunjian brought a knife. The crowd was only surprised and shocked by Yunjian's throwing knife skill. Mimi, are you okay? At this time, Mrs. Yang's son, Yang Lin, rushed out of the car to help Lu Mei. Lu Mei was thrown out of the car by Yun Jian and her but just landed on the ground. When Lu Mei landed, it was exactly the same as when Lu Mei pushed Qin Yiru. Yun Jian returned the pain that Qin Yiru was going to suffer when she threw Lu Mei out of the car. Therefore, while Lu Mei was frightened by Yun Jian, she was so shocked by the pain that she didn't see the 5 throwing knives that flew past her body. Seeing Yang Lin, Lu Mei couldn't stand up, but she hugged Yang Lin, who was squatting down, and leaned her chest on Yang Lin's arm in front of the crowd. At the same time, she endured the pain and was afraid of Yun Jian. At this time, she regretted treating Qin Yiru like that. Therefore, Lu Mei put her chest on Yang Lin's arm and asked for help. "Lin, I'm so scared. She framed me. My butt hurts." When Lu Mei leaned on Yang Lin, her fear of Yun Jian was mostly gone. Yang Lin was a gangster, so he knew a lot of people. Therefore, after being protected by Yang Lin, Lu Mei didn't feel so afraid of Yun Jian. Especially at this time, Zhang Jin, who was with Lu Mei and Yang Lin, also stood out. He had dyed his hair blonde and wore a fashionable earring. "That's too much. You're framing someone without any evidence. Why are young ladies nowadays so wicked?" Zhang Jin spoke up for Lu Mei as soon as he stepped up to attack Yun Jian. Yun Jian sneered. She slowly walked down from the bus and looked at Lu Mei and the others, who felt very proud after being protected. "You want proof, huh?" Yun Jian strolled to Lu Mei with a menacing smirk. Just now, Qin Yiru was almost thrown to the ground. Yun Jian's bottom line was touched again. She didn't care about the opinions of the people around her and walked toward Lu Mei. "You. What are you doing?" Zhang Jin stood in front of Lu Mei and acted like he was protecting the vulnerable. "Didn't you want evidence?" "Of course, I'm." Yun Jian broke into a smile in front of everyone. After a pause, she continued, "I'm giving you the evidence you want." As soon as this flat and emotionless sentence was finished, Yun Jian strode forward and stretched out her slender legs. Her long black tights wrapped around her perfect legs incisively and vividly. She sent Zhang Jin flying with a kick and continued to make her way to Lu Mei under everyone's fearful gaze. When Yun Jian kicked Zhang Jin away just now, because Yun Jian was wearing black tights, her clean kick was like a killer agent in a movie. Chapter 12:12. Yun Jian's pace was slow as she made her way to Lu Mei, who was on the ground. It took her a while to take a few steps. When Lu Mei and Yang Lin saw that Yun Jian had sent Zhang Jin flying with a kick, the young couple who were brimming with vigor paled in fright. Under the morning sun, Yun Jian's high ponytail made her look beautiful. Yun Jian was wearing a pair of black tights, which outlined her perfect curves. Her upper body was also tight, and her full breasts were vividly displayed in front of everyone. Her face was terrifyingly gloomy. When Yun Jian sent Zhang Jin flying with her kick just now, everyone had the illusion that they were watching a secret agent from a movie. No, this teenage girl in front of them was more like a special agent than the special agent in the movie. No matter how sharp the special agent's eyes were in the movie, no matter how thoroughly they portrayed their expressions, they were not as sharp as the teenage girl in front of them. They were also not as handsome as the teenage girl in front of them. Especially when they saw Lu Mei's image of a delicate, soft, and coquettish woman, the passengers sitting on the several long-distance buses almost applauded Yun Jian. "Hit her! Hit her! Hit her!" Some people even roared in their hearts. Some people were born unlikable, while some people's words and actions gave people a feeling of superiority and admiration from the bottom of their hearts. Lu Mei belonged to the former, and Yun Jian belonged to the latter. Mrs. Yang, who was standing in the bus, looked very bad. As for Qin Yiru, she was dizzy from the fall just now. Qin Yiru's body was not particularly good, and the fall just now made Qin Yiru even more dizzy. At this moment, Yun Yi and Gu Junjian were taking care of her. Mrs. Yang hated that she brought her son, Yang Lin, on a trip. What kind of woman did her son find? Mrs. Yang believed Yun Jian's words very much. So at this moment, Mrs. Yang's first thought was to tell her son to dump this vicious woman Lu Mei as soon as they came back from the trip. At the moment when everyone was thinking, Yun Jian stepped forward and stood in front of Lu Mei. Lu Mei grabbed Yang Lin's hand tightly and looked at Yun Jian. She was so scared that her whole body was trembling. Because there were so many people around the bus watching, Lu Mei thought that she could not lose face. So, Lu Mei stretched her neck, glanced at Yun Jian, and then said in a trembling voice, You. Don't come over, or I'll. At this moment, Lu Mei still wanted to threaten Yun Jian, but in fact, she did not have anything to threaten Yun Jian. Yun Jian sneered. In the next second, under everyone's exclamation, Yun Jian suddenly jumped up with one foot and rushed toward Lu Mei. At this time, Yang Lin was scared half to death. When he thought of Zhang Jin being kicked by Yun Jian, he did not care about Lu Mei at this moment. Because of fear, Yang Lin forcibly pulled away Lu Mei's hand that was holding him and hid far away. Ah! Lin, you. Lu Mei didn't expect that at the last moment, her boyfriend would dodge by himself. It was just that his voice was drowned out by Yun Jian's ruthless kick. Yun Jian sent Lu Mei sprawling on the ground with a kick before she followed closely behind her. Then, under everyone's exclamation, Yun Jian stepped on Lu Mei's head and stomped hard. Lu Mei was almost suffocated by Yun Jian's foot. The people around were frightened by Yun Jian's violent behavior. This is going to kill people, right? Just when they thought about it, Yun Jian had already pulled back her leg. She reached out and grabbed Lu Mei's hair, lifted Lu Mei up, and then sneered. Chapter 12-13. As Yun Jian spoke, the people present didn't even know when a butterfly knife suddenly appeared in her hand. The butterfly knife suddenly appeared in Yun Jian's hand. She gently swung the butterfly knife twice and grabbed Lu Mei's hair with one hand. Yun Jian's style of playing with the knife came and went freely. Her movements were so skillful that it seemed that she often played with the butterfly knife. Ordinary people would never be able to play with the butterfly knife so skillfully like Yun Jian without 3 or 4 years of practice. Just when Lu Mei recovered from the pain of being stepped on by Yun Jian several times, she felt the butterfly knife spinning in front of her. However, in the next second, the blade of the butterfly knife actually stabbed towards his eyes. Ah! Not only Lu Mei screamed and closed her eyes, but the passengers on the long-distance bus around, including the bus driver and the conductor, also screamed. Everyone was frightened by Yun Jian's sudden turn of the blade and stabbing toward Lu Mei's eye. They screamed one after another, and some people even covered their eyes. Because of Yun Jian's previous ruthless means, when Yun Jian held the butterfly knife and stabbed toward Lu Mei's eye, everyone was shocked. No one doubted whether Yun Jian really dared to do it. So at this moment, everyone thought there would be a bloody scene. Qin Yiru, who was sitting on the bus, heard the scream. When she just stood up, she was stopped by Gu Junjian. Gu Junjian said to Qin Yiru very gently, "Sit down. I'll go and see." After that, Gu Junjian walked out of the bus. At this moment, the butterfly knife in Yun Jian's hand had stopped 0.1 centimeters away from Lu Mei's eye. At this time, Lu Mei seemed to have been scared to death. She closed her eyes fiercely. Because her scalp was pulled by Yun Jian, she couldn't move her face, so she closed her eyes and felt that the blade of the butterfly knife was less than 1 centimeter away from her skin. Lu Mei was so scared that she screamed on the spot. She didn't realize that Yun Jian had stopped the butterfly knife. Ah! I was wrong. I shouldn't have pushed your mother, but who asked you to be so beautiful? It's not my fault. Also, you're dressed so old-fashioned, yet Lin's mother is helping you. When Lu Mei begged for mercy, she even said a few words to clarify herself. It was obvious that she was not remorseful at all as she begged for mercy. However, the surrounding people heard it clearly. This Lu Mei was really stupid. Not only did she admit her mistake, but she also said the reason. Now, the people around didn't even have the chance to think that Lu Mei was tortured by Yunjian. Apologize to my mother. After listening to Lu Mei's words, Yunjian's expression remained unchanged, but she said this indifferently. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Lu Mei was so scared that her whole body was trembling. She had already reached out to cover her eyes and was so scared that she burst into tears. Yunjian stood up. She loosened her grip on Lu Mei's hair and turned her hand over. 5 blades immediately appeared in her hand. At this time, Lu Mei opened her eyes and saw that Yunjian suddenly held 5 blades in her hand. She was scared silly. The surrounding people were also a little surprised. However, they heard Yunjian's beautiful, melodious voice again. She said to Lu Mei. While speaking, she turned the 5 blades in her hand. I'll give you 5 seconds to get out of my sight, or I'll kill you. These words were flat and monotonous, without any emotion, but it was enough to startle the people present. Chapter 12-14. Yunjian's cold words coupled with her horrifying skills just now. Lu Mei's whole body suddenly trembled. She almost rolled and crawled to the bus station. She didn't even have time to say goodbye to Yang Lin and just rushed out of here. Yunjian only sneered. A person like Lu Mei would only add to the unpleasant atmosphere of the trip. Since she had left on her own accord, it was just as she wanted. Yang Lin was also frightened by Yunjian's skills just now. Now watching Lu Mei leave, he didn't even dare to say a word. Yunjian grabbed 5 throwing knives in one hand. She looked sideways at Zhang Jin, who was kicked away by her just now. She raised her lips slightly and said coldly, "Why are you still here?" As she spoke, she twirled the 5 flying daggers in her hand in a relaxed manner. Zhang Jin shuddered in fear when he recalled how Yunjian had sent the 5 flying daggers flying past Lu Mei like she was performing acrobatics in a circus. Although he was in his 20s, it was the first time that he had encountered such a thing. At first, Lu Mei and Zhang Jin just wanted to follow them to have fun. Anyway, Yang Lin would pay the travel expenses and all the expenses for them. But at this moment, seeing Yunjian's threat, Zhang Jin was so scared that he quickly turned around and ran away. Yunjian, who was standing in the same place, sneered slightly. Then she turned her head to look at Yang Lin, who was shrinking in the distance. "Why don't you get in the car?" Yang Lin was a little scared by Yunjian's skills just now. Hearing Yunjian's voice, he immediately followed her. Lu Mei and Zhang Jin could run so fast. Of course, they couldn't be seriously injured. They must have been scared. As long as they didn't make a big scene, no one would care about what happened just now. After Yunjian got in the car, she glanced at the crowd and then pursed her lips, saying, "They miss home, so they don't want to go. We'll play by ourselves." Of course, they were referring to Lu Mei and Zhang Jin who had fled in panic. Upon hearing Yunjian's words, the corners of Yang Lin's mouth twitched. He was clearly chased away by a scary person like you. Nothing was said along the way. Serene City was not far from Longmen City as they were both in Zhe Province. After the bus brought Yunjian and the others to the bus station in Ning City, Yunjian and the others got off the bus. "Hey! Yunjian, I'm here." She saw Ningxia waving to Yunjian from afar. Ningxia's face was full of smiles. She waved her hands and her face was full of hospitality. After meeting Ningxia in Hasa village and going to the tomb, especially when Yunjian saved Ningxia in Hasa village, Ningxia's gratitude to Yunjian was indescribable. Not long ago, when Yunjian decided to bring Xiao Yunju and the others to the beach to play, Ningxia called Yunjian not long after, saying that she wanted Yunjian to visit her house. Yunjian agreed at the time. Ningxia knew that Yunjian and Lin Xiaochu were not on good terms, so she came alone today. When she saw Yunjian, Ningxia rushed over. Glancing at Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian, she greeted, "Hello, aunties." "Hello, uncles." She then ran over to help Yunjian with her luggage. Ningxia's family was very rich. Since Yunjian had saved her last time, Ningxia and her parents asked Yunjian and Mrs. Yang's family to stay for dinner. The best beach in Serene City is at Zhoudao, but it takes more than 40 minutes to get there by a big ferry. The hotels there charge a lot. So stay at my house tonight. I'll bring you around tonight and have a seafood feast. Tomorrow morning, we'll take the big ferry to Zhoudao for a whole day and come back in the evening. Ningxia came up with the most suitable travel plan. Looking at how excited Ningxia was, Yunjian nodded with narrowed eyes. Chapter 12-15. It was a very troublesome thing if one did not know the locals when traveling because one would be cheated. If one were to ask a stranger, they would not tell one much for no reason. Of course, one would meet a friendly stranger as well. However, if one were to meet someone who was scheming against one, such as him leading the way and inviting one to his restaurant for a meal, it would be a common occurrence. Therefore, with the guidance of a local like Ningxia, one could save a lot of trouble. Many people were willing to follow tour groups because they could not find a place to travel. With Ningxia's help, it was much more convenient for Yunjian's family and Mrs. Yang's family. After lunch, the group was ready to go shopping. Ningxia's parents were government officials. When the two of them heard that Ningxia was traveling to Country A and Yunjian was traveling here after saving Ningxia, they quickly took a few days off and invited Yunjian and Mrs. Yang's family for lunch in a friendly manner. Ningxia's mother was a very elegant woman, so after chatting with Qin Yiru and Mrs. Yang for lunch, the three of them came to a tacit understanding and went shopping together in the afternoon. Gu Junjian did not go. He stayed at Ningxia's house to play chess with Ningxia's father. Both of them were experts in chess. During the Chinese New Year, Gu Junjian played a few rounds of chess with Ce. It was no exaggeration to say that it was because Ce was good at chess that Gu Junjian strongly supported Ce to pursue Yunjian in the beginning. Xiao Yunju and the other two were brought out shopping by Qin Yiru, so Yunjian, Yunyi, Qinyu, and Ningxia were at home together. Since we're free in the afternoon, I'll bring you guys to the biggest shopping mall here. Hee, I've asked Senior Rui to come along too. He's the one who was more handsome when we were at Hasa village last time. Ningxia stuck her tongue out at Yunjian as she spoke and added, I know you don't get along well with Xiao Chu and Duan Tianyu, so I didn't ask them along today. This prevented Yunjian from encountering anything unpleasant. Yunjian nodded with a smile. Ningxia then brought Yunjian and the rest to Serene City's huge shopping mall. In 1999, Serene City's busiest shopping mall was crowded. Amidst the bustle, Ningxia brought Yunjian and the rest to Huchirue. Huchirue greeted Yunjian, obviously knowing that Yunjian was coming. Beside Huchirue was a man in his 20s. He was dressed very fashionably, but he looked a little sloppy. This is my bro, Su Liao. Huchirue put an arm around Su Liao and introduced him to Yunjian and the rest. Su Liao glanced at Yunjian and Qing Yu with a grin, then greeted, Hello, little girls. With that said, Su Liao even flipped his bangs and pretended to be cool. Yunyi grabbed Qing Yu's hand and introduced her to Hu Qiruwei and Su Liao. Hello, I'm Yunyi. This is my girlfriend. Yunyi was reminding Su Liao that they were his people, so stop looking. However, that was not the end. Su Liao had thought that Yun Jian was just a delicate little girl, so he brushed his hair to act cool. He wanted to present his coolest side to Yun Jian. However, just as Su Liao was about to brag, he heard Hu Qiruwei introduce Yun Jian to Su Liao from behind. Chapter 12:16. So she's the one who subdued the robber. Ha! What? It's her. Rui, are you sure? She's the one who subdued the robber. Su Liao did not react at first as he followed Yun Jian's gaze closely. When he heard what Hu Qiruwei said later, Su Liao was almost dumbfounded from shock. Suddenly hearing that Yun Jian was the girl whom Hu Qiruwei had been talking about a few days ago, Su Liao nearly fainted from the shock. After all, Hu Qiruwei had been bragging about Yun Jian's abilities a few days ago. The way she killed the robber with a swing of the knife had given Su Liao a fright. Now that he heard that Yun Jian was the main character, Su Liao had imagined Yun Jian to be weak. It was not hard to imagine how shocked Su Liao was by Yun Jian's abilities. Alright. Why don't we go for a walk by the beach? Ningxia suggested suddenly and turned to Yun Jian to continue her explanation. The best beach here is at Zhoudao. We'll take the big ship there tomorrow morning. The water on the beach is especially clean. We can swim in the water in our swimsuits. Let's go for a walk by the beach today. There's a beach here too, but it's not that clean. We'll go for a walk today and I'll bring you to a clean beach for a swim tomorrow. Ningxia had initially wanted to bring Yun Jian and the rest to Serene City's shopping mall, but she recalled that there was a sea near the shopping mall when they arrived. Hence, she suggested quickly. Everyone agreed with her suggestion without any objections. After all, shopping mall existed in every city. It was not rare. Since Yun Jian had come all the way from Longmen City, she wanted to see the sea. Qing Yu's eyes glinted when she heard that they were going for a walk by the beach in Serene City. Qing Yu avoided him discreetly and watched as Ningxia, Hu Qiruwei and the other two walked ahead first. It was only then that she pulled Yun Jian closer and whispered in her ear, Sister Jian, I received news earlier that there will be an international bigwig conducting an arms deal at a certain beach in Serene City today. I wonder if it's the sea we're going to. Qing Yu was always paying attention to international events, so she was usually privy to the details of some secret arms deals. It's fine. Let's go. Yun Jian looked relaxed. Just as Yun Jian and Qing Yu whispered to each other, Su Liao, who had been walking in front, suddenly turned around to see Yun Jian and Qing Yu whispering to each other. Hey, what are you whispering about? Why are you so secretive? Su Liao asked curiously. Nothing. Yun Jian replied coldly. Then, they came to the beach. This beach was full of people coming and going, and the crowd was quite crowded. Ningxia stuck her tongue out and turned to look at Yun Jian before telling the rest, I know there's a sea nearby that's empty. It's not far away. I'll bring you guys there. This place was too crowded, so everyone listened to Ningxia's suggestion and followed Ningxia's lead to another sea. There were not many people here. Looking left and right, they could only see about a dozen people walking around the sea. Just as they neared the beach, before they reached the beach, a few hooligans in their 20s came over and studied Yun Jian and Qing Yu for a while. The leading hooligan's eyes were glued to Yun Jian when he saw her. These hooligans wanted to flirt with pretty girls whenever they saw them. The leading hooligan went to stand in front of Yun Jian. He was shirtless with a tattoo on his chest that he thought looked cool and manly. Chapter 12-17. This group of ruffians had been here many times and flirted with many pretty girls. Therefore, it was not a coincidence that he brought his buddies over to tease Yunjian when he saw Yunjian and the rest today. It was him who was waiting here to tease the pretty girls. Yunyi frowned as he watched this unfamiliar man who exuded a ruffian aura walk over to tease his younger sister. He then shielded Qingyu behind him and stood in front of the man and Yunjian. "Please make way. Let me pass." Yunyi did not want a direct confrontation, so he spoke with a frown. "Who are you, kid?" The leader of the ruffians extended his fists and smashed them together, creating a cracking sound between the bones. He looked up at Yunyi, pretending that he was good at fighting. After the ruffian put on an act, he glanced at Yunjian who was standing behind Yunyi from the corner of his eyes. He felt that his bones had cracked when he clenched his fists and smashed them together. It was a dashing move. Therefore, the ruffian wanted to see Yunjian's reaction. The ruffian knew that he was quite good-looking. He assumed that ordinary women would think that he was powerful and influential after seeing his looks and the tattoo on his bare chest. Then, they would try to seduce him. As long as it was a woman, they would be willing to talk to him. However, when the ruffian caught a glimpse of Yunjian who was not far away, he saw that she was not moved at all. She was not attracted by his cool act just now. The hooligan's self-esteem was greatly damaged. Just as he was about to do something to show off his abilities, Yi Ci suddenly stopped him. "Capture them all and seal off this area." Suddenly, a man's voice in a foreign language rang eerily. Yunjian narrowed her eyes abruptly. The man spoke in German. Just as Yunjian narrowed his eyes, he saw a group of people dressed like they were from the underground black market running in from not far away. They came in and surrounded the place in no time. At the same time, a dozen of them rushed over in an attempt to restrain Yunjian and the rest. Qingyu's eyes glinted. She did not expect to run into what she had mentioned in the beginning. "Sister Jian, looks like this is where they're trading their firearms." Qingyu went close to Yunjian and told her softly. Yunjian had thought that she would not run into something like this since there were so many places by the sea in Serene City. Who knew that she would actually run into it? Soon, a dozen people came over to tie up Yunjian and the rest. Yunjian did not struggle. There were people who were tied up and tried to scream, but the people from both sides of the firearms trade covered their mouths with black tape immediately. The thugs, who had been acting cool in front of Yunjian just now, were now dumbfounded by what they saw. They had never seen such a terrifying scene before. They were men from the underground black market. They were all real gangsters. Yunjian did not struggle because these people would release all the innocent people around them once the firearms trade was done. They were not letting them go now because they were afraid that these people would spread rumors. Once the trade was done, it would be too late even if someone who wanted to disrupt the firearms trade got the news. As expected, a group of people came out from the streets of Serene City not long after. On the other hand, the other party disembarked from a large cruise ship that only appeared after a while. Both parties officially started the firearms trade. When both parties met and saw a young-looking man in his 20s coming down from the cruise ship, Yunjian's eyes narrowed. What a coincidence! It was him. Chapter 12-18. He was her greatest enemy, but he could also be considered an old friend. Why did she say that? The reason was simple. Yunjian was an agent trained by Lin Wei in Anhun in her previous life. At that time, Yunjian was abducted into the organization when she was 5 years old and was forced to undergo a test of life and death. At that time, there were at least a few hundred people who entered Anhun with Yunjian to undergo the assassin test. After that, there would be a new batch of people joining the organization every once in a while. Of course, every once in a while, a group of weaker children would die, and their corpses would be dragged out and fed to the wild dogs. As a secret agent, the cruelty of life that Yun Jian had gone through was not something that outsiders could understand. When she entered the organization, she fought with hundreds of children, including Yun Jian. It was an environment where the strong were respected and the weak were killed. Back and forth, among at least a few thousand children, there were only 3 who could grow up and walk out of the organization alive, including Yun Jian. And Yun Jian was the strongest among them. These 3 people were all influential figures on the international assassin and agent rankings. They had stepped over countless corpses since they were young and desperately survived. It could be said that in the organization, even if someone suddenly stabbed you to death while you were sleeping, you could only accept your fate. Survival of the fittest. To be able to kill thousands of people and survive until the end, the 3 people were undoubtedly the strongest existences. Yes, among the few thousand people, one of them was Yun Jian, and the young man who looked to be in his 20s standing not far away was also one of them. Only 3 people survived from thousands of people back then. Other than Yun Jian, the young man in front of her who looked to be in his 20s was also one of the strongest in the world. He was the 3rd on the international secret agent rankings, the God of War, codenamed Mad Dragon. Mad Dragon was also an elite among the strong. His strength was one of the best even on the international secret agent rankings. Therefore, Mad Dragon was Yun Jian's greatest enemy in her previous life, as well as her old friend. In the organization, Mad Dragon was her enemy. Because in such a large assassin organization, the thousands of children were Yun Jian's enemies. Either they die, or she dies. But after leaving the organization, Yun Jian's international development did not have any conflict of interest with Mad Dragon. Even when Yun Jian had just started out, Mad Dragon had even helped her. He saw that Mad Dragon was in the middle of an arms deal with another group of people. Originally, the innocent people present would have been fine. Yun Jian didn't want to acknowledge Mad Dragon either. But unexpectedly, the hooligan who had just tried to flirt with Yun Jian didn't have his mouth covered by the black tape. He didn't shout just now because he didn't react. Now that he reacted, he began to loudly beg for mercy. "You, who are you? We're just passing by, just passing by. Let us go. I beg of you." The hooligan was terrified at once, and his voice was very loud. As soon as his voice was loud, it immediately attracted the attention of the 2 groups of people who were waiting for the arms deal to be completed. Mad Dragon furrowed his brows. Was he trying to attract the attention of outsiders and let them know that there was an arms deal going on here? Kill that group of people. Under Mad Dragon's order, the hooligan's shout almost killed everyone, including Yun Jian. "Ah! Don't kill us. Don't kill us." Not only did the hooligan not realize that he was the one who caused this disaster, he began to wail like a ghost and howl like a wolf. If the hooligan didn't shout, Yun Jian and the others wouldn't have been noticed at all. When the arms deal was over, Yun Jian and the others could be released. However, the hooligan's shout directly attracted Mad Dragon's attention. Mad Dragon was the same as Yun Jian. They were both kings who climbed out of piles of corpses. He was used to seeing dead people and killing people. There was no difference between killing a few more and killing a few less. After receiving Mad Dragon's order, the men immediately took out silenced pistols from their pockets. Just as they were about to shoot the hooligan and Yun Jian, who was next to the hooligan. Chapter 12-19. Back when she was in Hun group, she was the most capable one among the hundreds of people. Her strength was reflected in her ruthlessness, her speed, and her insanity. Why was it said that Hun only had a few hundred people while Yun Jian and the rest had killed thousands of people and survived? The reason was simple. Hun would have a new batch of recruits every year. At the same time, there would be a group of weak people being killed by strong people in Hun every day. If the newcomers were too weak, they would be killed by the strong people in no time. Only a few hundred people would survive every year. This batch of recruits would die the next year, which led to one thing. There were only a few hundred people who could survive in the organization. Coming back to reality, Yun Jian's cold voice not only scared the gangsters group half to death, but it also scared Mad Dragon's subordinates and the group of people who were about to make an arms deal with Mad Dragon. Was there anyone in this world who dared to call Mad Dragon that? After all, who was Mad Dragon? He was ranked 3rd on the International Secret Agent ranking. Anyone who could be ranked in the top 3 on the International Secret Agent or Assassin ranking was definitely a fearsome presence in the world. Even the top 10 Secret Agent or Assassin ranking, those who could not be ranked in the top 3 would turn tail and run if they did not have the ability to win against the top 3. Even if Mad Dragon was only ranked in the top 10 of the International Secret Agent or Assassin ranking, everyone here would be scared out of their wits. Not to mention, he was Mad Dragon who was ranked in the top 3 on the Secret Agent ranking. What kind of international status was that? Moreover, Mad Dragon was one of the 3 people who had walked out of Hun alive with Slaying God, the top secret agent on the International Secret Agent ranking. He knew Slaying God, the top secret agent on the International Secret Agent ranking. Therefore, everyone present was shocked by Yun Jian's behavior. A young girl like her dared to challenge Mad Dragon who was ranked 3rd on the International Secret Agent ranking. She even called Mad Dragon, "You brat." This young girl probably had not even met Mad Dragon before, yet she dared to be so arrogant. Could it be that she only wanted to avoid being killed? The surrounding people were so scared that their faces turned pale. It had been a few years since he had heard such a form of address. Mad Dragon narrowed his eyes and turned to look at Yun Jian. He saw a fair and clean face that was so exquisite and beautiful that it was hard to believe that there was such a beautiful face in this world. Even Mad Dragon, who was used to seeing world-class beauties, couldn't help but take a second look. On the other hand, the leader of the other group of people dealing with Mad Dragon glared fiercely at Yun Jian. This person was also stunned by Yun Jian's appearance, but he quickly recovered. Then the man glared fiercely at Yun Jian, then turned to Mad Dragon and said with a smile, "Don't be angry, I'll order someone to kill her now." As he spoke, the man waved his hand and was about to order his men to give Yun Jian a fatal blow. Yun Jian suddenly untied herself from the ropes and stood up with a stretch. Although her movements were extremely sluggish, no one noticed the strange light that flashed across the corner of Yun Jian's eyes. Her. How could she untie the ropes? She was tied up tightly just now. Yun Jian's subordinate who stood beside her gasped. Mad Dragon suddenly noticed Qin Yu's face. This girl, why did she look so familiar? This girl, wasn't she one of SS people? Coupled with Yun Jian's arrogant tone just now, it overlapped with a certain arrogant but powerful person in his memory. Could it be? Mad Dragon suddenly thought of this and pointed a finger at Yun Jian. His arrogant and cold demeanor was replaced by a frightened expression. Then, he looked at Yun Jian and said fearfully in front of everyone. Chapter 12:20. Everyone was shocked by what Mad Dragon said. SS. None of them were surprised to be addressed as SS. Slaying God, who ranked first on the secret agent leaderboard, was not addressed as SS to outsiders. The term SS was a nickname given to Yun Jian's codename, Slaying God, by those who were close to her. Only those who were close to Yun Jian in her past life would address her as SS in such an intimate manner. That was why everyone present was surprised, but not by that. Instead, Mad Dragon, ranked 3rd on the International Secret Agent leaderboard, the Mad Dragon who was once from the same organization as Slaying God, the most legendary secret agent in the secret agent world. Everyone present should pay their respects to him. If Mad Dragon were to stomp his foot, everyone present would be in shock. The Mad Dragon who struck fear in their hearts. How could he call out the two letters SS to Yunjian? Although no one present knew the meaning of the two letters SS, they could tell from Mad Dragon's expression. The teenage girl in front of them was definitely not a simple person. SS. What's SS? The hooligan who almost peed his pants earlier shouted out loud when he saw how Mad Dragon addressed Yunjian. It was as if he had discovered something that allowed him to survive. After shouting, the hooligan assumed that Yunjian had something going on with Mad Dragon because he did not know Mad Dragon's identity. Hence, the hooligan struggled to free himself from the ropes and bounced towards Mad Dragon twice. Since he was tied up, he could not break free. Instead, he took a step closer to Mad Dragon. Therefore, the hooligan revealed a very friendly smile. He smirked at Mad Dragon twice with a hint of mockery, then said, "This. Big brother, are you interested in her? How about this? We're all innocent. Let us go and take her away. We promise not to call the police." Initially, the hooligan was the one who wanted to flirt with Yunjian. So when he saw that Yunjian and Mad Dragon seemed to know each other, he looked at Mad Dragon with an "I know you very well" expression. He thought that as a man, he understood Mad Dragon's feelings for Yunjian very well. After all, no one present believed that Yunjian's international status was higher than Mad Dragon's. How old was she? And Mad Dragon's reaction to Yunjian just now was naturally thought by the hooligan that he had feelings for Yunjian. After the gangster finished speaking, he looked at Mad Dragon with extremely flattering eyes, as if waiting for Mad Dragon to praise him and let him go. When the leader of the other group of people who were in the arms deal with Mad Dragon heard the words of the hooligan, he immediately thought that Mad Dragon was interested in Yunjian. "You. So you're interested in this beauty, then why don't you?" The leader of the other group of people who were in the arms deal with Mad Dragon thought that Mad Dragon was interested in Yunjian and immediately said. But before he could finish speaking, Mad Dragon, who was standing next to the leader, slapped the leader to the ground. Before anyone could react, Mad Dragon pulled out a silver pistol from his waist. He was so fast that the hooligan had no time to react. He pointed the gun at the hooligan and then fired a shot at the hooligan's thigh. The gun was a silenced pistol. If one listened carefully, they could hear a soft "chee" sound. In the next second, the hooligan who was tied up screamed with all his might. But because he was tied up, he couldn't turn around, and it didn't take long for him to be drenched in sweat. Just as the hooligan was about to faint, he heard Mad Dragon smashing the silver pistol on the ground. His face was very ugly as he said loudly, "I'm interested in her." "How dare you say that? Do you know who she is? Even if I had 100 times the courage, I wouldn't dare to be interested in SS. If you dare say that again, I'll kill you all." Kuang Long's words caused everyone present to feel a sense of shock and excitement. She. Is she more powerful than Mad Dragon? Chapter 12:21. The boss and his underlings who were in the arms deal with Mad Dragon were stunned by Mad Dragon's words. Especially Ningxia, Huchirue, and Su Liao. If Yunjian's skill in killing the robbers back in Hassa village was eerie and frightening, then Mad Dragon's current level of power was terrifying. Now, Yunjian's influence was enough to make Ningxia and the rest pale with fright. It was apparent that Mad Dragon was a powerful figure. Judging from the way Mad Dragon was fearful of Yunjian and the reactions of the people around them, Yunjian's identity was not as simple as it seemed. Unknowingly, Qingyu had already untied the rope that bound her. Yunyi had been learning from Yunjian for a long time, so she had mastered the ability to untie ropes a long time ago. The crowd did not even know when Qing Yu and Yun Yi had undone the ropes. Someone who was standing not far away suddenly pointed at Yun Jian. He seemed to have thought of something and shouted, "SS. I got it." If the Chinese pronunciation of SS is translated, isn't she the #1 secret agent, slaying God? The person's tone became more agitated as he spoke. He looked at Yun Jian and spoke loudly as if he was afraid that the others would not know. His tone was laced with fear. "Could you be slaying God?" The last sentence was uttered with fear. Moreover, this person's tone was filled with surprise and disbelief. It was not surprising. If Yun Jian was really the #1 secret agent, slaying God, how was this possible? This girl who appeared out of nowhere was the #1 secret agent, slaying God. How was that possible? Slaying God came and went without a trace. Her whereabouts were so eerie that it was frightening. Moreover, every time Slaying God appeared, she would wear a mask made of human skin. Therefore, the number of people in the world who had seen Slaying God's true face could be counted on one hand. As soon as that person finished speaking, everyone present was dumbfounded. What? Special agent ranking? Ningxia and the others didn't even know what the special agent ranking was. However, no matter how stupid the people from Ningxia were, it was impossible for them to not understand the meaning of this ranking. Secret agents and assassins were characters from movies. However, why were these people questioning if Yun Jian was the top secret agent, slaying God? First place. Then he would be #1 in the world. Su Liao had never thought that Yun Jian, whom he had taken an interest in from the first time he saw her, was just a gentle and weak little girl. Was she slaying God, the top secret agent on the international secret agent ranking? However, just when the scene was in an uproar and the scene was filled with horror and astonishment, Yun Jian was not affected by the horrifying scene at all. Her voice was cold as she said, "I'm not." She was not slaying God because that was her past life. Yun Jian did not even need a draft when she lied. Mad Dragon, who was standing not far away, had obviously noticed that Yun Jian did not want to reveal her identity. Cough cough. Slaying God, the top secret agent ranking, how could she be her? Mad Dragon helped Yun Jian to lie. Then why are you so agitated when you see her? Someone risked his life to ask Mad Dragon. At that moment, everyone had their eyes on Mad Dragon. However, before Mad Dragon could say anything, Yun Jian's cold voice was heard again. Because he was too weak. I once chased him around and beat him up. Did she just say that Mad Dragon, the third best secret agent on the international secret agent ranking, was too weak? Once again, everyone was stunned by Yun Jian's words. Right then, 4 tall silhouettes walked in from the periphery of the beach. Chapter 12:22. No one noticed that the people who surrounded the beach had fallen and Ce was making his way over smoothly. Those who stood where they were unwilling to believe Yun Jian's words. Since she claimed that she was not slaying God, how could she have captured and beaten up Mad Dragon, who was ranked 3rd in the international secret agent ranking? Just as everyone was doubtful and refused to believe the truth, Mad Dragon, who stood opposite Yun Jian, suddenly coughed softly. Cough. SS, can you not expose me when you're here? Although this is the truth. After saying that, Kuang Long's cold and aloof face was replaced by a faint smile. Those who thought that Yun Jian was exaggerating were stunned by Mad Dragon's admission. This. Could it be true? Who was Mad Dragon? He was ranked 3rd in the secret agent ranking and a top powerhouse in the secret agent industry. In the end, he admitted it himself that he could not defeat Yun Jian. Even when Yun Jian denied her shocking identity of being slain god, Mad Dragon's admission was enough to shock everyone present. While everyone was frozen in shock, Ce appeared out of nowhere and grabbed Yun Jian's hand as he glanced at Mad Dragon with a sense of danger. It was only then that Ce looked at Yun Jian. His aloof gaze that swept across the place turned into a gentle morning sun. Ce looked at Yun Jian and turned his slightly curved side profile to the people present. Irresistible gentleness was reflected in the soft light as he looked at her and asked softly, "Xiao Jian, is it fun?" His soft greeting surprised everyone present. There was an unusually sharp gleam in his eyes. The man who appeared out of nowhere could still look at Yun Jian with such a doting gleam when he saw her. Yun Jian did not resist Ce's handshake. Instead, she openly interlaced her fingers with his. "Where are the people guarding the perimeter? Didn't they seal off the sea? How can anyone come in? Where are they?" The boss, who was about to trade arms with Mad Dragon, suddenly grabbed one of his men's collar and bellowed. The surrounding sea was guarded. Logically, Ce should not be able to come in. Kill him. Ce suddenly turned to the side. His flawless face was so perfect that even men could not help staring at it for a few seconds. Ce uttered the word nonchalantly as he grabbed Yun Jian's hand with one hand while the other was casually and lazily tucked in his pants pocket. There were 3 people standing behind Ce, Mo Sen, Shuang, and Lin Wei. At this moment, Shuang was resting one hand on the shoulder of Mo Sen and Lin Wei respectively. He was hugging the shoulders of these 2 people with his back facing them. It seemed that he was whispering something. "What? You actually dared to kill my men? You?" The boss was clearly a bit stupid. When he heard that Ce had killed his men, he was so angry that he wanted to order people to arrest Ce. However, at this moment, Shuang finished whispering to Mo Sen and Lin Wei. Shuang and the other 2 also turned around. At this moment, Mad Dragon saw Lin Wei. Previously, Shuang had his back facing them, so Mad Dragon did not see Lin Wei clearly. Now that he suddenly saw Lin Wei, Mad Dragon was stunned for a second before shouting in surprise, "L, it's you." L was Lin Wei's unique code name when he was training assassins in the Enhun organization. It only had one letter. Lin Wei's name was not particularly famous, but he was still well known. However, who in the underworld did not know about the Enhun organization's L? Chapter 1223. If Mad Dragon, who was ranked 3rd on the secret agent ranking, was a terrifying existence, then any one of the 4 leaders of Enhun could be compared to the top 3 on the secret agent ranking. In other words, Lin Wei's strength was enough to receive the same treatment as Mad Dragon on the international level or even higher. It was obvious that Yun Jian was trained by Lin Wei, so Mad Dragon was naturally trained by Lin Wei as well. Mad Dragon was a little surprised to see Lin Wei here, but he didn't say anything after he recovered. Lin Wei only nodded slightly at Mad Dragon, but didn't say anything. In comparison, among the 4 leaders of Enhun, only Lin Wei was more aloof. He was the one who didn't talk much, and if he didn't have to, he wouldn't say a word. According to the ranking of aloof, the second would be Mo Sen, who was very steady in his work. "Hey, brat, I've finally met a student of yours." Shuang put his arm around Lin Wei's shoulder, leaned in front of Lin Wei, and joked with him. "Let go." Lin Wei spat out a word with a cold face. Shuang was so scared that he quickly removed his arm from Lin Wei's shoulder. Among the 4 great chieftains, the one with the strongest strength was Lin Wei, and the one with the most handsome appearance was Shuang. However, there was a long scar on Shuang's neck. This scar covered up some of his handsomeness. Therefore, women would usually stay far away from him in fear when they saw him. How could they still care about whether he was handsome or not? When Ningxia's group saw Ce and the other three, they became even more suspicious. Why did these people seem to have a big background? Tomorrow at Zhou Dao, I have something to tell you. Just as the atmosphere was about to fall into a low tide, Yun Jian suddenly said to Mad Dragon. Mad Dragon's looks were not bad. When Yun Jian said this, Ce grabbed Yun Jian's hand even tighter. Mad Dragon didn't even think before agreeing, no problem. Mad Dragon believed that if he didn't agree to this lady's invitation, his lair would be blown up by this lady. Let's go, Yun Jian said as she turned around. At the same time, her little hand was still held by Ce. Qing Yu and Yunyi had already untied the people from Ningxia. This arms deal would continue. Of course, if Yun Jian and the others wanted to leave, how could the boss of the arms deal with Mad Dragon dare to stop them? They watched as Yun Jian and the others walked out. Ce held Yun Jian's hand and disappeared in front of everyone. Lin Wei and the others also followed behind. Yunyi, Qingyu, and Ningxia went out as well. Only the gangsters group was ignored. Mad Dragon only breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Yun Jian and the others leave. Are we letting them go just like that? The boss suddenly said. After saying that, he immediately realized his mistake and hurriedly covered his mouth. However, Mad Dragon still heard the boss's words clearly. Mad Dragon looked at the boss like he was looking at an idiot, then sneered at him. Idiot, can't you see? The three men standing beside that man were all the four leaders of An Hun. Other than Adam, all of them are here. 3 of the 4 leaders are here. The 3 of them are protecting that man. What do you mean? You idiot, think about it carefully. The boss reacted just as Mad Dragon finished speaking. When their thoughts came back to them, the rest of the group held their breaths. Boss exclaimed in shock, "Mo, could that man be?" Chapter 12:24. Shut your mouth. That person's business isn't something you can discuss. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died. Mad Dragon reprimanded his boss with a frown when he saw how curious he was. No one noticed that Mad Dragon's heart clenched when he said that. His expression was solemn. In fact, even Berserk Dragon was terrified at this moment. That person was definitely the scariest person in the world. No one could compare to him. If he or boss dared to leak a word about him today, they would not live past tomorrow. Seeing Mad Dragon's solemn expression, boss was shocked and immediately covered his mouth. On the other side, Ce held Yun Jian's hand as she walked in front. Lin Wei and the other 2 followed behind her. Yunyi and Qingyu walked side by side as well. Behind them were Ning Xia and the other 2 who were still in shock. It was not until they walked out that Su Liao looked at Yun Jian who was walking in front. His gaze fell on Ce's hand that was holding Yun Jian's. Su Liao was silent for 2 seconds before he asked Yun Jian, who were those people just now? How can they open fire so brazenly? Su Liao, Ning Xia, and Hu Chirue were together. They were all university students and had never seen such a scene before. They were obviously scared out of their wits. Ningxia and Hu Chirue had already seen it in Hasa village, but when they saw the frightening scene again, they were still frightened from the bottom of their hearts. Yun Jian was taking 2 steps forward when she suddenly stopped and turned around slightly. Her hand was still held by Ce. She smirked and said, "You want to know? You can go back and find out." After that, Yun Jian ignored Su Liao who was trembling in fear and continued walking forward while holding Ce's hand. When they came to a fork in the road, Yunyi greeted Yun Jian before taking Qingyu to shop. Yun Jian nodded at once and Yuni pulled Qin Yu away. "Hey, young mistress, was that your sister-in-law?" Shuang put his arm around Mo Sen's shoulder and asked Yun Jian. Obviously, that sister-in-law was Qin Yu. Qin Yu's international reputation was not weak, so it was not surprising that Shuang knew her. Yes, Yun Jian replied. They then went to the shopping mall nearby. They had planned to shop here, but Ning Xia was eager to bring Yun Jian and the rest to the beach, which led to the incident earlier. Ning City was huge, but this was the biggest shopping mall near Ning Xia's home. They had not even made one round when they bumped into Qin Yiru, Mrs. Yang, and Ning Xia's mother, who were also shopping. Qin Yiru was holding Duanli and Duanya's hands. Yun Zhu, on the other hand, walked on his own. In the words of his classmate, Xiao Hui, he was a man and a man should walk on his own. Once he saw Yun Jian, Yun Zhu's manly demeanor just now vanished without a trace. Sis. C.E. Gidge. Xiao Yunzhu ran toward Yun Jian. Yun Jian let go of Siyi's hand when she saw Xiao Yunzhu and squatted down to extend her hand. She thought that Xiao Yunzhu would throw himself into her arms. Unexpectedly, Xiao Yunzhu bypassed her and hugged Siyi's leg tightly. C.E. Gidge. Hug. Yun Jian, who was prepared to receive Xiao Yunzhu's hug, pursed her lips and stood up discreetly. C.E., who was standing beside Yun Jian, saw that Yun Jian was defeated. His perfect, handsome face curved slightly and his eyes were filled with adoration. Then, he bent down in the next second and carried Xiao Yunzhu in a suave manner. Ning Xia's mother, who was standing afar, stared at Ce and Yun Jian, who were carrying Xiao Yunzhu. She could not help saying to Qin Yiru. Chapter 12:25. Both Ningxia's mother and Ningxia's father came from the countryside. They studied well when they were young and became government officials when they grew up, earning their current standard of living. Therefore, even if their standard of living was not on the same level as before, Ningxia's mother's mindset was still more of a rural person's. Rural people usually got married in their teens. Even if they did not get a marriage certificate, they would hold a banquet in the village to get married first and make up for it when they could get a marriage certificate. Most of them were 16 or 17 years old, while some rural girls were already mothers of one-year-old children. Therefore, when Ningxia's mother saw how compatible Yun Jian and Ce were, she could not help blurting out those words. Yun Jian's cheeks flushed right after Ningxia's mother said that. In spite of it, Ce looked like he was afraid that others did not know about his relationship with Yun Jian. With a slight smirk, he said naturally in the next second, "I'll do my best." Even if Ningxia's mother's words were unintentional, everyone present thought that something had happened between Ce and Yun Jian. Shuang could not help coughing softly before he turned around again, holding back his laughter. He was not mistaken this time. His young master had actually said something so shameless just now. Was he still their young master? Lin Wei and Mo Sin tugged at each other as well. Qin Yiru was looking forward to it as well, so she felt refreshed when she heard it. Qin Yiru, on the other hand, looked around but did not see Yun Yi. Otherwise, she felt the need to remind her son to have a good grandson or granddaughter as soon as possible. Yun Jian's cheeks flushed as she stood beside Ce and pinched Ce's waist softly. Nonsense. Ce did not feel the pain at all, his already slightly curled lips growing more obvious. His Xiao Jian could only belong to him. As for the marriage contract rings on Yun Jian and Ce's hands, everyone present had already noticed them. When Qin Yiru asked about it, Yun Jian said that Ce had bought it for her. When Qin Yiru heard this, she covered her mouth and laughed. Then, she praised Ce, "This child is getting more and more thoughtful." After shopping in the afternoon, they quickly went back to Ningxia's house. At the same time, Ningxia also said goodbye to Hu Qirui and Su Liao. After dinner, Shuang asked if there were any nightclubs in Ning City. The fact that Shuang and Lin Wei could be here today was because they were on vacation. To Shuang and Lin Wei, Country Z was a tourist destination. Shuang thought that since he could finally relax, he should go to the nightclub for a stroll. Ningxia thought about it for 2 seconds before clapping her hands and shouting, "Yes, there's the Royal Nightclub nearby. It's booming business every night." Shuang quickly ran to Yunjian and asked, "Young madam, it's not easy for us to travel. Why don't we go to the nightclub nearby to have some fun tonight?" Shuang was usually very serious when negotiating with international bigwigs, but he was quite playful in private. The reason why Shuang did not talk to Ce but went to Yunjian instead was because he knew that as long as he called Yunjian over, their young master would definitely follow them over. If Ce knew that Shuang referred to him as young madam in his heart, Ce would probably send Shuang to the Amazon forest to have fun tonight. You're tuning in to the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.